Hi there, and welcome to another episode of the Astartes Anonymous podcast, where today we are ranking the Primarchs not by their combat ability or by their strategic genius, but instead by the sheer weight of tragedy they have endured. From shattered dreams to personal betrayals, these demigods have faced all kinds of hardship that we shall explore with our special guest today, the Amber King, aka Hal. So, get comfortable as I am once again joined by a Plague Marine whose jokes are as rotten as his armour. A Dutch world eater who has told me in no uncertain terms to stop referring to him as South African, and an eldritch entity with more lore knowledge in his little finger than the rest of us have combined. I'm your host Tom, and these are my co-hosts.
Hello, I'm Aaron, the usual man, and next to me is the happiest South African known to man. Definitely not sad. Don't call him sad.
You stinky little... I'll get you one day. You'll taste my chain axe. Come here!
Oh, that's good.
But hi, I'm Alex, and I'm super excited to be here. I'm Hal, and I thought we were all meant to say we're gay. Like, I thought we were meant to all hold hands and kumbaya, but I guess we're here to talk about Warhammer instead.
This is twice now. This is the same opening as we had with... Was it Arthur? Yeah, was it Arthur? Because we said the same thing to Arthur at the start. We said, oh, well, you can do your intro, and you can tell everyone that you're gay. And then Arthur jumped in and Arthur said, hi, I'm Arthur and I'm gay. Was it Arthur? I think it was Arthur, wasn't it? I think it was Arthur.
I think it was Crackduck. I'm pretty sure it was Crackduck.
Oh no, you're right, no, it was Crackduck. Yeah, it was at the start of the episode.
We were all shocked he actually said it.
Yeah, now we've got another one who said it. I should stop telling people to say they're gay at the start of the episode.
I've been pranked. I've been
getting bamboozled day after day.
Yeah.
Me and Alex have been in an affair the entire time. I can't believe it came out like this. Can't tell my wife that. I just fell in love with his South African accent and I just couldn't hold it in. You too?
Oh, that's great. Oh, you poor South African.
Oh, I'm so nice to you guys, so what do I get? It's true. We don't deserve him. But what we do deserve is... some good old Primarch stuff today. I'm super excited to talk about tragedies because specifically, I can't wait to dog on a particular character, but I know we're not getting to that straight away. But I have feelings, maybe not as strong as Arthur Bones does about Leman Russ. I have feelings I wish to express, and I am Mortarion's strongest soldier.
Well, you will get an opportunity today to express those feelings without a shadow of a doubt, and any other feelings you may have. But before we get into that, shall we do our 3 models of the week?
Hell yeah.
Can do.
Excellent. So, our first model of the week was selected by Aaron, and this is from a member of our Discord called Warmonger7584. And Warmonger has created here what I can only describe as some sort of custom Tau. Aaron, you're into your Tau. Do you want to tell us what this is?
I'll be honest, I have no idea what the fuck this is.
Okay, we're off to a great start.
Good start.
Let's go!
I recognize bits of it, but it's pretty much like a custom Gundam build by the looks of it. It's really fucking cool. It looks like the sort of missing third child of Pure Tide, along with like Shadow Sun and Farsight.
This is truly one of the Warhammer 40,000, 100%.
Of course.
Bro, he Warhammer 40,000 all over the carpet.
The big old plasma blades up there is fucking sick. It's chunky as fuck. I feel like it's a reference to something. No, it's a Necron blade. That's what it is.
He's thick in all the right places.
Yeah. The whole fire effect on the back on the cotton wool is really cool. And there's a delightful little video to go along with it as well. If you
I'll put the video on the screen. I mean, this is the thing, though, right? I'm not huge into my Tau. I don't know all my Tau suits, yada yada yada. But I can ID a cool kit batch when I see one, and this is very, very cool. So, exceptional job, Warmonger. That is wonderful. Shall we move to the next one?
I was going to say, Tom, just quickly, you always say you're not the biggest Tau fan, but when you see a battlesuit in person, you start frothing at the mouth a bit.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right. You're right. I'll look at battlesuits and Tau mechs and stuff on the web store or in pictures, and I'm like, oh, they're all right. But you're right. As soon as I see one in person, I think they're amazing. You're absolutely right. You're 100% correct on that. Right, shall we move on to the next model of the week?
Yes, sir.
So, this one was selected by Alex here, and Alex has picked a model created by a Bolt Metro. Aaron, would you like to... Not Aaron, sorry, Alex. Would you like to tell us about the Ultra Mega Chicken?
Well, this model is fucking awesome. Like, the Lord of Change is just in itself a beautiful sculpt. But I'm like, the thing that really caught my eye was the back of the wings. It has like the tip of the wings themselves goes from like green to like a red to a brown to yellow. Like, I'm a really big fan of like all the changing colors all over it. And then the blade itself also having like a purple and a blue tinge to it looks awesome.
Yeah, well, wonderful layers of subtlety with this mini. It's great. I'm personally not a huge fan of the Lord of Change, but when you see people sort of do it like this, I can see why. I mean, this is the thing about models with huge, great feathered wings as opposed to like bat wings or what have you. You've such an opportunity to add so much color to them. And what Bolt Metra has done here is that, but with a degree of subtlety. So yeah, I vibe with it. I think it looks great.
Yeah.
Too smooth.
Right, let's move to our final model of the week. So this was chosen by our wonderful guest, the Amber King, a.k.a. Hal. Hal, would you like to run us through this model created by Snorker? Or at least a group of models created by Snorker, even.
First of all, the name gets bonus points because, first of all, the whole concept of what he has created here. Is anyone familiar with the term Sharamzid? Or
not
No. Now,
educate us.
Is that like something you do to someone?
The particularly with Death Guard here, like, it gives me the vibe of when, basically, a Sharamzi is when you all at the same time. And
I'm going to have to, you do realize I'm going to have to, like, blur out all of that.
I'm so sorry. Okay. So sorry. I'll do a redo. Sharamzi is basically when you exit from every single orifice. And essentially, the Death Guard here with the, like, particularly the green glow, it's giving big highlights to the fact that things are exiting this Death Guard.
Quite.
And it stinks. It just reeks.
This poor Discord user's claim to fame is that the fucking Amber King said his models look like they got fucking Sharamzi, whatever the fuck you said.
They stink.
That's abhorrent. You're not even talking about the fact you did a cool little head swap on some of them. Like, you just went, oh yeah, that guy looks like he...
No, I just love it because...
It all in once, man. Damn.
Now I've got to blurt you saying it out as well.
I'll fucking say it again.
I like that the models brought attention to the most disgusting parts of the Death Guard models in particular. I'm a big fan of the Death Guard model just because nothing else quite like in a tabletop experience really comes across like the Death Guard model. Particularly, everything else is super clean, whereas these are like everyone who makes a Death Guard army, even if it's like painted badly, it looks good because it's the Death Guard. But I think particular love for this one because and the Nurglings are cute. I love putting in Nurglings in this for the audio listeners
as well,
here.
and I love that.
It's really funny you said that about the Death Guard. Like even if they're not painted like super great, they look good on tabletop. Because Tom said the exact same thing to me like 2 years ago when we had our first game. He's like, it's weird. They're the only army that looks good on tabletop, even if they're not like A tier fucking painting standard. And it's like, huh. Yeah. It was just a bit of deja vu that hit me then.
Apologies for the Sharamzi reference, but also the Nurglings are particularly the
one at once.
Oh, we're not meant to say it. We're not meant to say it. We know what it means. Exiting from orifices.
Oh, Lord.
Particularly this one, like the attention to like the Nurglings as well. Like the Nurglings stand out a lot, and they're so damn cute. Like they're just you want to hug one and then immediately burn all your clothes. But you know, I'm glad that
exceptional job, an exceptional head swap. So wonderful, wonderful job, Snorker, and a wonderful job to the other two models of the week. People as well. So, gentlemen, shall we move on to our main topic for this evening?
Yes, sir. Let's get it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, before us, we have our tier list for today's events. We have kind of randomized the Primarch list. Usually we do it either in the order they were found or their numbered order. This time, we have no order. So, at the top of our list, we have Truly Traumatized for the Primarchs that have really been through the ringer. Then we have the Espresso Depresso tier for Primarchs who have gone through, but not quite so badly. Then we have Superhuman Sad, where Aaron belongs. Then finally, we have the Dreary Demigod, again, another rung down. And finally, we have Crimea River Loser for the Primarchs we are destined to take the piss out of
good
this evening. So,
I know
gentlemen.
I'm single, dude, but fuck me, now that was unnecessary.
So, gentlemen, our first one for this evening is none other than Rogal Dorn. Sorry, Roboute Guilliman.
They're basically the same person.
I thought it was
anyway.
Dawn as well, to be fair.
I think that already sets a pretty good setting for where he's gonna go, because come on. Okay, look, all the other Primarchs, they've gone through some shit. And definitely recently he's been having some ultra depression. But before all that, let's look at his origins, right? Like, yes, he lost his parents, kind of sad, but at least he had loving parents, first of all.
Well, he only lost one parent. He didn't lose his mother outside of any weird scenario. But his adoptive father, was it Konrad Guilliman? His name was Konrad,
Guilliman.
right?
I think so, yeah.
Conan.
Konrad Guilliman was,
He didn't have any
if I
abs, he was
recall
an old
correctly,
guy.
assassinated by a political rival. And Guilliman was not too happy about that, but it was like a classic Hollywood parent death where Guilliman sort of took it and became stronger and better because of it, as opposed to like sank into a sea of
Rage.
malady.
He was mute the entire time. Completely stone-faced it.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is he's already got a better start than 90% of other Primarchs.
Yeah, 100. Guilliman had the best start out of all of them by far. He is the
Really?
only, I think him and Dawn, I don't know actually, is it true about Dawn? I don't know.
Dawn
It might
had
be
a
him and Dawn
grandfather.
or just him, but I'm pretty sure Guilliman was the only one who actually had an interstellar empire by the time the Emperor arrived. So Guilliman had a
Dawn's
cracking
right, yeah.
start.
To be fair, the truly tragic moment for Guilliman comes up with the quote unquote surprise. I mean, it's the decimation of the Calth. For people who are listening who are not as familiar with what the word Calth is, essentially, Calth is a ultramarine world that was like, oh man, this place is fantastic. This is like Shrewsbury, or it's like a place that makes cheese or something, or a Wensleydale or something, or a cathedral, any cathedral city place. This was fantastic, and this was when the word bearer, like the Horus Heresy, has just been unveiled in other parts of the galaxy.
Yeah.
And the word bearer decided, hang on a minute, the Ultramarines have been left out. Let's go bring them in. Let's give them a big bear hug with murder. And they essentially flung an entire fleet of essentially fire ships, or the equivalent of, into the Ultramarines bases. Loads of the word bearers who were friends with Ultramarines got assassinated by their old friends who now worship chaos. And essentially over 100,000 Ultramarines died in the initial impact, and then the following decimation at Calth.
Yeah.
And Guilliman was so distraught about it that he was able to fight in space with his helmet off and yell.
Yeah.
Well,
I think just to sort of add on to that, I think, I don't mean to take away from your point, but I'm going to a little bit. I feel as though that happening to Guilliman, I mean, yes, sure, he was sad, but one of the things that's true from the books that surround that sort of point in the Horus Heresy is that Guilliman isn't sad as much as he's fuck-ass mad. He is, every time Guilliman talks in surrounding Calth, he is just this version of himself that is beyond furious at all times.
Lorgar's become a Karen to him. That's the level of hatred that bubbles in his veins. He wants to smack. He doesn't have a good opinion of priests, and it's even lower after this. Let's just say.
Yeah, he literally gets on a megaphone so that everyone in the solar system can hear him, and he's like, Lorgar, you're not allowed to surrender anymore, I'm gonna kill you. Pretty much. Jumps on the megaphone and threatens Lorgar, and it's game on.
To be fair, it's not quite as that's not maybe the most depressed he's ever been. The most depressed is when he did wake up.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Do you want to explain that?
Yeah, go for it.
He woke up in the 41st millennium, and everybody he loved is dead, and everything
gone.
that he built has died, and everything that he tried to build has been twisted and turned into the worst version of what the Emperor said should never exist. And then he's also like, but there are Ultramarines around. So it's like, okay, something's around, but it was,
and then he works out the Ultramarines don't find him funny anymore, and then he's sad because they don't get his sense of humor.
Oh yeah, with the fucking paper, my only weakness or something like that.
So he cracks a joke, and Kaito Sakaris is like, "No, Lord, you're not very funny." It's like, oh no.
What's that skit where it's that old one with the guy who has like long ginger hairs from the Irish TV show, and it's one where his friends like egging him on to like, oh yeah, go piss in the bottle, like in the thing, and then he ends up taking a number 2 in the bottle, and that's exactly how Guilliman feels when he tries to joke around Ultramarines. They're just like, oh my god, they do not like jokes.
It's so sad though, because Guilliman had such a great relationship with so many of the Ultramarines, pre-heresy, during the heresy, just nap time. I think maybe this actually another contender for the saddest Guilliman has been is just before he got put into stasis.
True.
Because just before he got put into stasis, when he was like losing and had lost the fight with Fulgrim, he in his dreary, dying state, he's looking around and he's seeing his closest men die by the dozen just to buy him an extra couple of seconds of life. And all he can think about is how much he's failed. And so Guilliman goes into stasis, and the only thing he can think when he goes into stasis is how much of a failure he is.
Oh. I mean, I think superhuman sad. Like he's been through stuff, but he's Guilliman, so he can get through it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Guilliman is a great example for like slap bang in the middle of the tier list as well. To be fair,
Ultramarines being the jack of all trades once again. Yeah,
once again, even in their depression.
Yeah,
should we put in superhuman sad then?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, truly the pastor.
I need some fucking Ultramar strength antidepressants after this episode, boys.
Yeah. Right, gentlemen, next up we have Horus Lupercal.
Cry me a river, loser. Alright, fuck this guy.
Who names his son Horus Heresy? What do you think will happen?
He was fucking asking for it, alright? He had it coming.
I don't think he cries at any point. I think he's pretty into it. Maybe until the end. For audio listeners who are like, or maybe readers who had not read all of the Horus Heresy, some of his more depressing moments come from the fact that he believes, like when he gets corrupted by chaos, he basically believes the Emperor has told a complete lie, and then that the Imperium's essentially building its way towards the 41st millennium, where the Emperor is worshipped the god. And poor old Horus, not that it happens, like it makes him sad. The fact that he's not lauded like the rest of like the, loyalist Primarchs, supposing the 41st millennium, that's what makes him angry / sad / depressed.
Yeah.
So, really selfish, like just a real dick wheeze of a character. Sometimes.
That's what I'm saying. Bottom tier. Fuck this guy.
It's hard to feel sympathy for Horus because he is very much the architect of his own misery.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, there's no denying that he has been sad, and he's the only one of them, I think, outside of, I want to say Curze and Sanguinius, that actually had to deal with proper existential dread. But that was pretty much at the moment just prior to his death.
Yeah.
And I don't think existential dread is quite the same as tragedy.
Yeah. I think Horus would go to a therapist and he wouldn't walk away with the diagnosis. Like, let's be honest. The man is just, you know what I mean? It'll all pass at some point. There's only one other bit I can think of, which is set in the book called Slaves to Darkness. Basically, they're gathering up all the traitor forces before they go towards Terra. And essentially there's a part of Horus's soul, like, locked in the warp where, like, it's the last good piece of him. And he's like, to his equerry and his like kind of loyal friend Malaga, he's like, Malagus, I don't want to do it. I'm low-key not that like into ruining humanity. It's like not my vibe. And Malagus just destroys that part of him completely. And so it's just like, nah. Like literally the blades, like the dagger he's holding is called Hell Nah, and just rams it in.
Yeah. So just a little bit off topic, but only because you bring up Malagus. I was trying to put together a short. I'll probably go live a few weeks from now. About this wonderful conversation he had with Malagus. And he's talking to him about the about how Horus himself feels like he knows war quite uniquely as a thing. He feels like all the Primarchs are genocidal, war gods, right?
Yeah.
But he feels like he knows it much better than any of the others. And he sat there and he's lamenting about how there was one other Primarch who knew as much as him. And it's like, this is way late in the heresy. And he goes, you know what? I really miss Ferrus Manus, because Ferrus Manus knew war like I did. And then they put this little passage as soon as he says that. It's like, Horus says, as he taps this ornate wooden and iron box. And then you find out Ferrus Manus' skull is in that box. And I just love that.
Yikes.
Oh.
It's a horrible moment. Poor Ferrus.
Poor Ferrus.
Take him before his time. Poor boy.
Poor boy. So I think because Horus, all this shit is so self-inflicted, I'm really inclined to say Crimea River loser.
Literally no one's done to himself but himself.
Yeah, he caused it himself, and even in the end, like, he also understood right before he fully died, like, that there was no way for him to come back. So, yeah, I think he deserves what he got. So, Crimea River loser.
So we all in agreement, Crimea River loser for this guy?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Horus can weep. We need a list, like a tier list for him, which is literally just he'll open a yogurt and just won't lick like the lid because he's that weird. Truly a broken individual who. What mad person walks up and puts the lid with the yogurt still on it in the bin? Crazy.
I don't.
Right, gentlemen. Next up, we have the pettiest Primarch, Petty Perturabo.
Peter
Speaking
Turbo.
of losers, goddamn.
Oh Lord.
Well, Perty has genuinely some really good reasons for being fuck-ass sad. This guy genuinely, as soon as he woke up from his pod, like being teleported to Olympia or what have you, the only thing he could see was the Eye of Terror. And if we talk about Primarchs that had the best start and the worst start, he is really close to the worst end on the list for that one reason alone.
Yeah. Literally is like, psst, chaos is watching you change. Like,
I wouldn't agree with that. His first tragedy quotations, as far as I'm aware, was the death of his stepsister, which he did himself. He killed her.
And that's not quite his first tragedy is when the planet he grew up on, Olympia, is essentially Game of Thrones on steroids. And when he sort of realizes there's no such thing as a genuine friendship or connection on this planet, it makes him extremely bitter towards people. And he pretty much grows up as an outcast. Well, as he's a thing to be prodded and be like, do the cool thing again. And so literally nobody actually likes him or has ever loved him because he's simply a weapon. So that's no wonder he's kind of bitter. And then the Emperor comes to greet him and he's like, the dude, he doesn't even touch the floor. My dude skips up a mountain. His fingers are all bloody. He gets to the top and he's like, the Emperor's here. Oh my God. The Emperor's like, my favorite. Wink, wink. And oof, will you serve me unconditionally? And he's like, Perturabo is weeping, being like, yes, I will. You'll make my life is complete. And then the Emperor ignored him for 2 centuries.
Well, it's really interesting you say that because there is, after that takes place, I can't remember what book it's from, but there is a moment where Perturabo and the Emperor, I think it's shortly after that, they have a one-on-one conversation. It's really positive. It's a really lovely conversation where Perturabo feels, and it actually says in the narration that Perturabo feels that genuine, I think the word it used was genuine connection with the Emperor. And the way that page ends, it literally says something along the lines of, this is the last time he would feel this way. He would never feel like this ever again.
Right.
And this was before the Horus Heresy. This is well before the Horus Heresy even started. That Perturabo was fucked.
The emotional L's he takes.
Yeah.
The neglect, just to explain for people who haven't read it, when the Great Crusade is sort of more towards its end, their home planet of Olympia basically rebels, and Perturabo is embarrassed. He's like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. Someone's read my diary. The dude is truly horrified. So he, him and the Iron Warriors run back to Olympia, and they're like, you keep taking away all our children. He's like, and? He's like you lost your children go to be warriors. You should see what's out there. You'd be less worried. And then essentially he's rebelled by his own world. he enacts decimation upon his world, so he starts killing populations, as Aaron said earlier. Basically, his half-sibling, well, not his half-sibling, his stepsister, who was supposedly his only like ally on this world. She's very elderly, by the way, at this point. So he literally, at the end of this, like, grabs this elderly woman and throttles her to death whilst he's crying his eyes out.
Yeah.
He looks over at Olympia, and he's just like, he kneels in like shame, being like, what have I done? I got too angry. I went too far. The Emperor's going to absolutely ruin me for what what horrible thing I've done to one of his worlds. Again, silence. Nothing.
Oh.
The Emperor goes, well done, good. Like, he gets a pat on the back for making a world compliant. And that's when he's like, oh my god, he never cared about me. Oh my god. He literally everything in the book you can think of being like, oh, he never loved me, never took me out to dinner, like all those things, everything's going on in his poor head. And then he gets to the Horus Heresy. He's like, maybe I have some friends left. Nope, betrayed by Fulgrim.
Yeah.
I get the most sad part, the most depressing part for him is when Fulgrim like looks into his mind and he sees what Perturabo's like pure like number one dream is, and all he wants to do is build buildings. He wants to be an architect and build a utopia. He doesn't even want to fight. And then he basically it will never happen. And by the time we get to the Siege of Terror, he realizes there's no friends left. Everybody hates him, and he's too stubborn to admit that he was wrong.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a little bit like Horus, where some of it is his own fault, but it's very much a poor circumstance thing. Like, you can always see like how he ended up there, but I mean, just emotional L after emotional L, truly.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many moments as well where other Primarchs will, for their own purposes, will like show a degree of respect to Perturabo. And those interactions are really, really splendid. Like when Horus is trying to get Perturabo on side, or my favorite one is when, just before Istvan, when Perturabo talks with the lion. It is such a wonderful dialogue they share, where for 4 pages, you actually believe the lion actually cares about Perturabo's opinion. I think that's really cool. It's a really cool little glimpse into Perturabo's character as well, because the lion's whole thing is that he can just read people so well, and this fuck-ass, petty, giant man with pipes in his head just lies to his face and then fucking detonates so many people. But I think Perturabo would go pretty high up on the list for me. I don't think, just because I know there's other people on this list, I don't think he belongs in Truly Traumatized.
No.
Personally, I could see an argument for either Superhuman Sad or Espresso Depresso, honestly.
Espresso Depresso for me.
What do you two reckon?
I'm going to troll him on the Espresso Depresso as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of being incredibly petty, fuck this guy. He didn't have to raise fucking Olympia or kill his stepsister just because he had a little bit of an emotional tantrum. I know, fucking Crimea River loser. I fucking no.
Oh, you want him down there? You want him in Crimea River?
Oh, no.
What do you get? In
I
his
really
view,
do not care for this guy.
they were a non-compliant world, and they just do that to everyone else, no matter what, in the Imperium. It just happens to be like that's his stepsister. Like,
okay,
oops.
so we've got 3 for Espresso Depresso and 1 for Crimea River. Does that average him down at Superhuman Sad?
No, he is Espresso Depresso. He's more depressing than Guilliman. Come on.
He is more depressing. All right, we'll leave him there for now. Right, gentlemen, the next one is none other than Angron.
Oh, God.
So, shall we quickly explain to the audience why he is always going to be at the top of this list? Because he's gonna be.
I will fight you. I will fight you for it. But yeah, no, it's, the thing is with Angron, right? And seeing as, he's my boy, I like him. So the whole thing about Angron is the perfect example of, complete abuse. He ends up as a pod on a planet where he gets enslaved by highborn people that put entire populations inside these massive slave gladiator pits where for survival you have to fight and win. And of course, because he's a Primarch, he keeps winning constantly. At some point, he disobeys them and he doesn't want to kill his adoptive father.
Yeah.
he ends up having to kill him anyway, and then getting implanted with the butcher's nails as punishment, which turns him...
Other way around. He kills his adoptive father after, immediately after getting the nails. In fact, he doesn't even remember doing it. The only time he realizes he's done it is after the fact. He's sitting in his cell with the nails in his head, and he's adjusting to the pain of having them in there. He's sort of going a little bit cuckoo.
Yeah.
And he hears a couple of the guards outside his cell talking about how he had killed his adoptive father in the arena.
Oh, that's even worse.
And then it goes on to say how Angron wails in sadness for 3 days straight, unending.
Oh. And then, the thing is about him as well, his whole purpose was to be an empath, so he could even heal the pain of others around him, and the butcher's nails took that away from him. At some point, he raises a, what's the word for it?
Gladiator army.
Yeah, he raises a gladiator army to go against the Highborn and breaks out. They make their way into the mountains, killing army after army, but slowly but surely getting torn down.
Yeah.
He makes what we know as a last stand, where you go for the last man and you know you're all gonna die, but you've made peace with that. And right before he goes, right before the last couple gladiators go, the last couple hundred, he gets teleported away into a dark room.
Truly an Abaddon move.
He just gets yoinked by the Emperor, and he is not happy about it.
We are not pod racing at this point. We're so sad.
And then he's talking to the Emperor, and he's like pleading. He's like, please let me go back down there, or please sort of save them, or do anything, because both of those things are within the Emperor's power to do.
Yeah.
And the Emperor's just like, no. Nah, you got better things to think about. Don't think about that. I need you to think about other things. Don't think about that. And Angron, and then obviously fast forward to whenever Angron literally is just killing his Legion company captains just because fuck it.
I mean, the whole Horus Heresy and the Great Crusade for him is one giant mission.
Well, quite.
He keeps living. Poor guy.
Yeah, and then fast forward to 40k, he meets the Lion, and the Lion bashes his fucking face in.
Yeah.
He gets his face smashed in. So it's like, there is at no point where Angron is happy. If we talk about pre-heresy, when he fights Leman Russ, and he's so mentally not there that he doesn't even realize he's lost. Yeah. And then the same thing when he fights Perturabo, and Perturabo beats the piss out of him, even as a demon. I mean, there's more to it than that. He doesn't just solo him, but
Yeah.
And Perturabo's like, wow, you really are kind of fucking stupid, aren't you? And it's sort of from that point onwards, he is like so much more of a slave than he'd ever been, because there is at no point after the start of the heresy is Angron ever not doing somebody else's bidding.
Yeah, he's a tool to be used, and because he was meant to die so long ago, the person that he is at this point is not really there. He's just a tool, and if he dies, he just respawns and goes again. And even during the Horus Heresy, where he has his happiest, in quotation marks, moments, like he tells Lorgar, like the only moments he sleeps or dreams is during war, when he's killing. And those are just very like small slivers of moments where he can feel something. But that man was broken and truly traumatized from the first point onward.
I want to know, is that artwork, sorry, just real quick, is that artwork of Perturabo with like a very large mastiff, is that official?
I don't think that's official.
That's a real shame. I just love the idea of Perturabo just having because it looks like a normal sized mastiff next to him, so it's just a mastiff that's the size of like a small car.
He couldn't have any kind of bond or friendship like that. So
of course. Well, gentlemen, I think it's a very easy one for Angron. He is truly beyond traumatized. If Angron is not in truly traumatized, then nobody is, in all realism.
He saw the horror film before. He was way too young when he saw the horror film. He is truly...
Yeah.
That is nightmare fuel.
Yep.
Truly traumatized.
Right, I'm putting him in truly traumatized.
Cry me a written out, I'm joking. No, fucking get that boy up there.
Quite. Yeah. Right, gentlemen, next up we have Jaghatai Khan.
Oh, I mean, I feel like already it's not going to be that high up, but just to explain for people, like some of his most like quote sad moments, the Khan had, like, he's basically had, like, sort of like Guilliman, where he had, like, a decent start, loads of friends, he's very, you know, he likes his weekends, he's having a great time, but just slowly over the Great Crusade, like, all the friends he grew up with just slowly die off, and by the time of the Horus Heresy, even his closest friends, Jaghatai Khan, who's his Storm Seer, basically his, like, librarian psycho dude, basically like, oh, I have things to tell you. He's like, you know, little Gandalf-looking creepy little boy. And he basically, every one of his friends, either they betray him during the Horus Heresy, or they end up sacrificing their lives for him. And he's basically like, and he can't do anything to save them. I think, to be fair, like, all of the Primarchs really go through losing particularly strong links with their sons.
Yeah.
So I can't say, I mean, the whole point of Jaghatai Khan is, like, he's just a smooth operator the entire time. He's like, maybe I've gone through some stuff, but I'm keeping it chill. Like, I'm fine. I'm cruising.
Yeah, I think that's the thing as well, because I remember I mentioned to you earlier when we were talking about Yasugai very briefly earlier today, and it's like, it is a big moment for him, and he does, like, he doesn't hold his corpse because he's fucking gone, but he's there and he's wailing about Yasugai. But Yasugai's death, I mean, obviously it upsets him, right? Obviously, but Yasugai's death upsets everyone, every single White Scar, and I think that makes his death feel so much more impactful because it's not just the Primarch. It's like even Reviel Arvida, the Thousand Son who became a White Scar, is like bawling at Yasugai's death. So it's a hard one to say. I think he deals for his lifespan as well, like how old he is and how old Primarchs are. I honestly deadass think that Jaghatai has to deal with maybe the most normal sort of mournings that not mourning like wake up in the morning, but mourning with a U. Yeah. You know, the most normal kind of mournings that a real person would have to deal with, you know?
He's just kind of like vanilla on the tragedy sort of table, isn't he? He's like,
yeah. I think it's kind of hard though, because when we look at the list, we see Guilliman is like slap bang in the middle at Superhuman Sad. I genuinely would put Jaghatai below him because, to me, Guilliman ekes it out because of 40k, right? And what Guilliman has to deal with in 40k.
Yeah, he'd probably be the perfect Druid demigod pick, to be honest.
I think so.
He's got nothing. He's just sort of normal sad. He's not like espresso sad, but he's not Horus.
Yeah, he has to go through the tragic things of life, of friendship, of families, of everyone you've ever known. But he isn't really depressed. He isn't really, like, he's struggling with things as we all do. But I think he's the perfect example of just, he's okay. He's going through the stuff that is normally just tragic in life as a normal being. And he's just living with that. So I think he's the perfect thing for a dreary demigod because he isn't doing it to himself. He doesn't feel bad for himself. He knows what the right thing is. So dreary for me.
One hell of a morning routine. Wake up and form the Golden Horde. I mean,
he's just got his coffee in hand.
Golden Horde in the morning. Conquer, the Song Dynasty in the afternoon. Like, might be the Song Dynasty. One of those, my bad. But dudes, I would even say Crimea River loser, but not in like a mean way. Like, he's just like, I don't feel like he's actually, like, I don't feel sad anything about it. I'm like, Jaghatai Khan is like, thanks King for showing how you can digest your emotions in a healthy way. Appreciate you, fam.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's what I mean. He's the only Primarch that actually, not all the time, but you typically feels well adjusted, which is really strange because every single Primarch, even Vulkan, all of them, they're all genocidal maniacs. That is what a Primarch is. But somehow to be a genocidal maniac, have familial bonds, mourn when people die, and still get up and do what you need to do. I mean, I remember there's that one moment, I can't remember who it is, but wasn't it one of his captains dies? And then Jaghatai embraces the fucking Speed Force because he doesn't want any more men to die during that particular battle.
Hannisk or Hansik or something. That's during the Great Crusade. And he immediately just stops in the middle of the battle, stares at the lava pit he just fell into, and he tells everyone, leave! And the orcs just stand still, like, knee shaking, and all the Imperials like, let's go. And then he just goes, I am Speed. And then
it's kind of like that bit from when like some of the Primarchs talking about who would win in a fight. and they all look at Jaghatai and it's like, I don't know. And we're just here going, we don't know how sad this man is. We don't know. We can't tell.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of vibe.
Well, exactly, yeah. Right, gentlemen, next up we have the Ferrus Manus himself, Ferrus Manus. I have to say, I'm legally obliged to say that.
Can we put his body in one category
mind.
and then his head in another category?
No, sadly not. Sadly not, because the skull of Ferrus Manus has to go in truly traumatized for having to listen to Horus's monologuing for 12 years.
That's rough.
The rest of his body goes in taken before his time.
Well, that's it. The only notes I put down for Ferrus are truly traumatized for having the least representation.
The least writing, yeah.
I finally
didn't get his own book. Fuck, man.
I get to flex something now. I've officially read all of the Ferrus Manus stuff because I had to do a video on him. So I've read all the short stories and things that he's in. Oh yeah, but better part than half. But I have read all like the little short stories, his own Primarch book, and like all the little things which are really annoyingly hard to find.
Yeah,
did get a book. Oh,
his most like depressing aspect about him. Well, the very clear one is Fulgrim betraying him and then cutting off his head. Dying is, some people say, dying is somewhat tragic, and I you know what I mean. Like I feel like he's pretty knowledgeable on that. So, I mean, if he feels that way. But
did you read? Did you read A Lesson in Iron?
I think I have, yes. I read that one, and the Riven, and then there's like another one which has a weirdly like irony name, and it's not all in one book.
There's this one moment from A Lesson in Iron that I want to talk about. It could have been a potential really sad moment if he wasn't so fucking stubborn. But he's in the war with his like veteran honor guard, right? I think this is during the Great Crusade. He's in the warp with his veteran honor guard and a tech priest. And whilst he's in the warp, he stumbles across a derelict Iron Hands ship. And they board the ship. And they don't really recognize any of the Iron Hands in it or anything that's going on. And the tech priest surmises that the ship is actually from the future. It's from, like, the 41st fucking millennium, because they find a single Iron Hand, like, guy on the floor, and they see all of his augmetics and bionics and stuff. And the tech priest infers that this is what the Iron Hands will be like in the future. And Ferrus is just like, no, they won't. Over my dead body, kind of thing.
No.
And it's like,
I have some bad news.
It's funny you say that, man.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, this is no future I will accept, or some shit. And the tech priest is like, just to go off on a tangent, the tech priest is like begging him to like let them take stuff from the ship to use as like technology from the future. And Ferrus is like, nah, fuck that. If the future has Iron Hands that are like super like augmented, I want fucking nothing to do with it. And they just leave.
Thank you, writers, for teasing us.
Yeah, quite. Yeah. This is the thing about Ferrus's stories, though. Every one of them is so close to being cool, and then they just fall flat.
He does have an interesting monologue where he talks about his actual Iron Hands, Mr. Iron Hand. But he mentions how like he's actually kind of low-key embarrassed by the fact that he has to rely on like his metal arm essentially making him stronger than...
Yeah.
Like he thinks he's like a weaker Primarch than the rest of them, and his metal arms like build him up to the same level as them.
Yeah.
And he says like one day he needs to, like, when the fighting is done, he'll find a way to like peel it off his flesh, and then he'll make sure his sons remove all their Iron Hands
as well,
thing.
yeah.
Sorry.
It's really interesting you say that, though, because obviously the Emperor's vision is like this idea that when the fighting is done, the Great Crusade is over, and we have won, and the Emperor's webway is a thing, yada, yada, yada. Any Primarchs who can adjust to civility will be allowed to live, right? And it seems so hard to imagine Ferrus Manus and the Iron Hands as that, because they are such warmongers. Their whole thing is...
Yeah.
survival of the fittest, right? Yet when you sort of read that about Ferrus, you know that they're going to be the ones who make it, despite even by Horus's own admission that Ferrus knows war like he does. You still know that they'd be one of the few legions who would be able to turn over a new leaf and engage in peace. Because that's what he wants. He wants that same vision the Emperor has. And that's why Fulgrim could never fucking turn him.
That's also why, like, quite sad is, like, when Horus says, like, he understands war, it's because it does show in, like, Ferrus Manus' Primarch book. He tries at one point, like, I'll try be diplomatic. And by the end of the book, he sort of goes, like, well, this is called the Great Crusade. Like, bro, this is the time of war. I just got to be a warmonger. Like, what's the point in trying to be something else?
Exactly.
And what's the other one? Also, Iron Hands always miss out half their own catchphrase, which is "the flesh is weak." That's only half of it. It's "the flesh is weak, but deeds endure." So it's meant to imply not that the human body is disgusting and horrible and weak. It's meant to imply that your lifetime is very short, but the things you do in your lifetime are the most important things.
It's just like the customer is always right. ... in matters of taste.
Yeah,
it's been mutilated and twisted to suit a perverse alternative understanding. I think it's funny because if we don't look at it from an espresso depresso and actually look at it from a tragedy perspective, I think Ferrus gets surprisingly high up just because of what happens to his sons. Not just the tragedy of being the first one to die, apart from 2 and 11, who are obviously not on this list. But the tragedy of his legacy being completely perverted and mutilated way more than anyone else.
Yeah, with everything combined around him, I think he would probably fit around like superhuman sad. Probably around there.
Yeah, as a person, but the consequences.
Yeah. I'd honestly be inclined to put him in Espresso Depresso ahead of Perturabo.
I agree with that, yeah.
I'm biased because I play Iron Hand, so Espresso Depresso, please.
I have a lot of love for my boy fucking
I'll concede to that.
A lot more than Perturabo. God knows.
Local Iron Hands player. They actually exist.
Excellent.
All
right,
three
gentlemen, so next up we have the man who beheaded the Ferrus Manus, Fulgrim.
Wow, the walking fleshlight himself.
Yeah, so I actually read, literally today, not even in prep for this, just reading. I actually read earlier today
Show off.
Their whole fight on Isfahan.
They're just showing off that you can read. I was like,
it's like I read more than 5 words today. Can I have a gold sticker?
All right, some of us, okay, all right, we don't read, all right, no, it's okay.
But it's really interesting because like Fulgrim is so obviously sad after he kills Ferrus, and he doesn't really kill Ferrus as much as the Layer Blade kills Ferrus. It's explicitly stated that the Layer Blade does it, and Fulgrim doesn't do it.
Yeah.
And then all this magic warp bullshit happens when Ferrus dies, because obviously a Primarch dies. And Fulgrim, it sort of describes Fulgrim as being kind of curled up on the ground, but he's there for like a paragraph, and then he just gets up again and just carries on.
I don't have any sympathy.
It's like he's sad, but his sad is such a facade, and then as the heresy goes on, he just doesn't really give a shit. I mean, there is the thing where he tries to, like... Doesn't he try to... Yeah, he does. He tries to, like, clone... He tries to get Bile to, like, clone Ferrus, and then he has to kill the clones, because all the clones are equally like, yeah, fuck you, man. It's not going to happen.
There is a thing with it, right? No, and Horus sees this, like, at the end of the Isfahan thing, is because right after he kills Ferrus Manus, he gives himself to the demon. Which that means that his Primarch soul gets put in the back locker, and the demon takes over. And Horus like notices this in the conversation afterwards.
Yeah.
And well, there's that whole theory that he was in the painting and everything, and later on he wasn't in the painting and stuff. I think Fulgrim himself, like the soul that was there, is actually like really tragic how that happened, because he, without really realizing, sold his own body in physical form to this demon. Because he didn't want to kill Ferrus Manus, but the demon did, and when he did, he was like, oh shit, did I do that? Oh my god, somebody help me. And the demon is like, hand over your body and I'll make everything alright.
Yeah, that is actually really quite a tragic thing, you know? He lost his agency completely.
Yeah.
His free will, and as a Primarch, to have your free will usurped, I think the only Primarchs to have to deal with that are him and Horus. You know? Konrad would say that his was as well, but that's because Conrad's going in Crimea River.
It's also locked in that painting, though. And I think it's one of the biggest missteps in the lore is when they say he's locked inside the painting. They should have said his soul was locked in the realm of Slaanesh, and that would have, because when he comes out of the painting, he's like, by the way, guys, I'm totally evil now. Like, oh my god. Like, it's just like, I'm going to go do my nails and drink blood. It's all good.
I thought that a bit with the whole swapping back and forth a bunch of times got retconned.
No, it's still in the short story, like the painted Phoenix, maybe. It's still in there because it's following Lucius, he's not the Eternal yet, but Lucius's like POV where he's like, that Fulgrim kind of sus. Like he don't quite handle the cutlery in the same way he did. Like, so, like he just. I feel like that could literally fix the entire Fulgrim. Like any like people have like problems with it. Like
I do believe that's actually a thing. I remember there, like especially being a note of like the legionaries like noticing that like Fulgrim used to really like sculptures in particular, and suddenly he enjoyed paintings over sculptures now, and they were like, "That's really weird. Like, why is he acting so strange?"
Yeah.
I don't really feel bad for Fulgrim at all, to be honest. Honestly, Crimea River loser. Like the dude is insecure. Like for someone who looks that good to be that insecure, the worst combo ever.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. If you take what happened to Ferrus out of the equation, he is instantly in Crimea River loser, 100%. And I feel like that's a distinction we need to make. And for that, I think for me, I have to agree, Crimea River loser. I think I'll put him behind Horus, though. I think Horus stays ahead in that particular one, to be fair.
I mean, purely for... cut it out, but what was that fucking dreadnought?
Rylanor.
Shit.
Rylanor?
Yeah, just for Rylanor, fuck this guy.
Just for Rylanor, fuck this guy. You know what? I'm in. I'm putting him in. Fuck that.
I'll agree to that. Yeah, like the moment is sad, but overall he's kind of he's a bit of an ass.
Yeah, those 3 random Thousand Sun sorcerers kind of base though. To be fair,
Thousand Suns mentioned. Yes, please.
Right, gentlemen.
Beloved.
Moving on to Alpharius Omegon.
Oh, here we go.
I'm going to let fucking Hal just take over this entire segment because I don't know
I'm not touching this.
I don't know nothing now.
All right.
All right,
listeners, pucker your... Okay, we're about to go in.
Jesus Christ.
Lord.
Part the 2 cheeks. We're about to go through the red.
No.
Third time today, boys. What the fuck's going on?
The tragedy of Alpharius Omegon. Well, first of all, 2 Primarchs. If people who are listening are like, what? Then it's like, yeah, Alpharius and Omegon are the twin Primarchs. They're the kind of supposedly first and last one to be found, although the first one found in secret. Alpharius kind of has an pretty good beginning. He gets raised by Malkador, the Sigillite, essentially, which is like the Emperor's like right-hand human, most powerful psycho ever. Literally can run at the same pace as a custodian. Never forget that.
Fucking hilarious. That one thing. It's like it's that fucking babushka running on water.
Totally my dad at Parents' Day. For real. Like he's absolutely go for it.
It's so dumb.
Yeah. So pretty good upbringing. Omegon kind of raises like is mostly kept in mystery, but it's implied like he basically was raised in a world where these Xenos called the Slaw or the Sloth or Slothy. They like the little maggoty, weird, like suction, also augmented Xenos. Like they eat your brains. Supposedly he grew up on a planet which had been sucked like 3,000 out of existence from the human population. Then he kind of traveled around, battled Xenos. Not really that tragic. The tragedy comes from the fact that they sort of learned about this thing called the Cabal, which is a collection of Xenos that supposedly want to influence the galaxy in a way to defeat chaos. How do you do that? The secret ingredient is genocide. They want to kill all of humanity. And because then once humanity's dead, basically there's no fuel for chaos.
Sorry, can I get that on a t-shirt? The secret ingredient is
The secret
genocide. And just get a picture of you like behind it.
Banger idea.
Like bottom text, top text, bottom text, and then it's
Extra
just you in the
flavor.
middle.
Essentially, so the part they play throughout the Horus Heresy is essentially, described by the author Dan Abnett, they're essentially playing along with the Cabal to the point where they need to understand, like, if what they say is true. Because in a way, like, they sort of come to the agreement, the Twin Primarchs, that perhaps humanity dying to save existence might be, like, that might be a thing the Emperor might do. Then they also can't tell the Emperor because then they'd also fail. Because they, but then there's a weird part where, okay, to mention here at this point, because again we might get lost. Alpharius is the one who was found first by Malcador. Omegon's the one who's found last, and he like is supposedly it's like a fake meeting with Horus where it's like, oh, they find him. Oh my god, they actually switch at this point. So Alpharius now become.
Sorry, just real quick. Is this confirmed or is this?
I think this is mostly confirmed. This is what it's implied to be.
I think mostly confirmed kind of translates to tinfoil hat.
It's heavily implied.
Mostly confirmed implies to partially tinfoil hat.
It's heavily implied due to like some hints, I'll explain. The Alpharius and Omegon, they often switch places in front of other Primarchs, but then they, like, their Legion kind of knows like which one it is. They actually switch places in secret with each other to the point where Alpharius now parades as the Omegon last found Primarch in the Legion. And there's a split of ideology here where it's implied that this Omegon, in brackets, Alpharius, okay, this is why it gets so confusing. So Omegon, who is really first found Alpharius, he somewhat disagrees with his twin brother, but he loves his twin brother and he doesn't want to openly fight and like destroy the Legion. So he secretly sabotages their own Legion throughout the Horus Heresy. And it gets to the point where Omegon, who's obviously now everyone thinks in his own Legion is the first found Alpharius, he eventually does die at the hands of Rogal Dorn. And this is where Omegon, who is how many times I said? Yes, he actually literally feels like another part of him die. And he's like, oh my, like, he literally feels empty and broken. The Alpha Legion at this point is somewhat left in a state of confusion because, spoilers for the Siege of Terror, the Alpha Legion is poised to either side with Horus or either side with the Emperor, because they've gotten to the point where they realise the final endgame has come. And one of the members of the Alpha Legion has gone on to Terra to activate either two codes. And one of them is to side with Horus and be like, okay, we actually kill humanity to save existence. Or the other one is, actually, no, we should fight back against chaos, it's lying. And essentially, I think it's implied that both code words get triggered. So the entire Alpha Legion, which is split into cells and groups and warbands across the galaxy, is then forever confused in an unending civil war and espionage against itself, the loyalist elements, and the traitors. Essentially, the Legion sort of implodes upon itself. And I don't know if it's implied that this Omegon / Alpharius who survives dies to Guilliman later or fakes his own death. Most likely fakes his own death because of things. But so the kind of most, again, so this is like, it's a lot for people listening. But the most
I'm so confused.
the most tragic part is that Omegon, last found Primarch, does die. Alpharius, first found Primarch, now has to inherit the mantle of the only living Alpha Legion Primarch. He's pretending to be his brother.
Yeah.
And essentially, he feels like an empty, like, pit. Like, literally feels his other half. Like, if anyone is listening who is a twin, and their twin dies, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, you literally look in the mirror and you see that person. So he's pretty hopeless. Their big gambit fails. They basically ruin their plan to either help or destroy the Imperium.
Yeah.
They end up being the bad guys in the story, and it all goes to crap. Oh my god, thank you.
I'll be honest, that's actually the most... I know you feel like you've gone around in circles. I know Alex admittedly said he's confused, but like, that's actually the most concise I think anyone's ever presented the Alpharius Omegon story to me.
Alpha Legion lore?
I understood the story, but I know it's just the names. The names are That is fucking me, but the rest is really good. I understood
essentially
the
last found Primarch, Omegon, basically takes the place of his brother within the Legion.
And he is the one that dies at the hands of Dorn.
The Legion thinks like, oh, we've always had Alpharius around with us, and then we found this guy called Omegon, who's the other twin Primarch. But essentially they switch places, so Omegon parades as the Alpharius, who's always been with them, and then Alpharius parades as the Omegon, who's the last found Primarch.
Aha!
Alright, Hal, so where are they going?
Superhuman's sad. I mean, like, I get it, because they kind of only have like one sad moment. They're not like a lifetime of suffering.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the same thing as Ferrus, just not quite as bad, because their entire legion's purpose, it's not perverted like Ferrus's is, but it is completely destroyed. And then all you've got left is half a man. So yeah, I can see why Superhuman's sad. I'd probably put him ahead of Guilliman, actually. I'm going to put him ahead of Guilliman. I think that's a bit more appropriate.
Yeah. Maybe not, because Guilliman has, like, we've seen Guilliman truly be sad. Oh,
yeah, I suppose so.
Oh, we lost Aaron there for a second there. Oh, he's back in.
Aaron, are you still recording?
Yep, standard. That's all good. It's my phone.
Moving on, gentlemen. We need to talk about Corvus. So, Corvus is an interesting one. Corvus doesn't have a lot of moments that are truly sad. Corvus has a few moments where he's angry as balls, but not a huge amount of moments where he's, like, actually sad. The saddest I remember reading about Corvus is, like, when Corvus, like, has the whole Raptor Project thing, which, to summarize, I'm going to attempt to summarize the Raptor Project, and Hal or Alex, if one of you guys wants to, like, interrupt me to tell me I've got it wrong, go right ahead.
Okay.
But the Raptor Project was initially the Imperium's attempt at making slightly better space marines, and something to do with giving them to the Raven Guard.
Not better space, basically fast, like, almost like, instead of having to wait to, like, continuously implant gene seed in space marines, they could mass produce space marines really quick. They gave them something from the Primarch project to essentially grow them and accept the gene seed at a superhuman rate. So they could make a whole legion within a few short years.
Yeah, they made marketable plushies, but then the plushies ended up mutating, which was horrifying.
Yeah, and so what happened was the Alpha Legion sabotaged the whole thing. And there's this one scene in one book where Corvus is, like, holding one of the Raptor Project E's in his arms, and the guy is on the floor. He's all mutated and dying and horrible, and I think it's implied that Corvus, like, makes a few promises to him, weeping, and then just sort of snaps his neck.
Oh, it's super sad.
And that's, like, I think the saddest we see Corvus.
He's pretty sad, like, after the Istvan tragedy as well, to be fair, when, like, 90% of his legion does die.
That's true. He is one of the 3 that's on the receiving end of that. I forgot about that.
That's pretty horrific. And when he's on Istvan, it said, like, the survivors essentially run into the mountains, and he fights non-stop, continuously, like, keeps trying to save his sons and then, like, die in front of him. But his armor is a wreck, and he's, like, basically on his last legs. But he literally fights 24/7 to cover their retreat, and he doesn't even have, like, time to emotionally take it in, because he's just like, I just got to get us out of here. And
it's really hard to tell with him, because he has always been quite edgy and sad, like, at all times. He's always really dreary and, like, meh. So it's really hard to tell with him when he's actually upset. But I do think, like, there's definitely a couple moments, especially on Istvan 5 itself, when he's, like, going around and trying to survive, leading his last part of his legion into, like, the survival ridges, trying to get off planets, trying to see what's going on. That depression and sadness that he gets, because he really does feel like he also, like, failed at the siege. Like, he should have pulled out earlier. He pushed in too fast. He understands the mistake that Ferrus made, but he also wanted to be there for his brother. He's really, like, broken by it. And of course, later on, he gets so upset he chases Lorgar into the Eye of Terror for 10,000 years.
we're still yet to see how that resolves.
What makes the Raptor Project particularly sad is that when the Alpha Legion sabotage the gene seed, those few thousand raptors actually, like, even though their bodies are mutated, they end up serving the entire Horus Heresy. And so they literally like fight.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
And by the end of it, like even when they fought alongside like the last remnants of the space wolves, and then like some of the wolfen end up like having to fight the raptors. It's very bizarre. Basically, mutated people going like, we don't like your Khan around here. And they go for each other. But like by the end of it, they've just like they fought an entire Horus heresy. It just basically like everything Corvus did basically end up not working out. Like he almost like he made no difference, and he failed the Emperor. He spends a whole year. Well, when he learns that the Emperor's like mortally wounded, he spends a whole year in the tower, and he locks himself away, like literally crying.
Yeah,
and he says never. And then supposedly he says nevermore. Like he doesn't. He literally just goes on his vengeance pact at the end. I do feel pretty like he's one of the few Primarchs where I'm like, it's like he feels like a bit of like a kick down dog, if you know what I mean. It's like, oh damn, like give him one win.
Yeah.
Like come on.
You just feel bad for him.
Yeah.
He's just
not super bad, I won't lie. Like I don't think he's tragic. I think they try and make him tragic. I don't think he's as tragic as like the other ones have been through some real like heartstring pulling things. But to be fair, like even when after Istvan, all like the side characters like that he considers family, they're all actually still alive because they survived.
Yeah.
So I feel like he got away with like loads of his sons died, but none of his like close family or friends died. So I think maybe superhuman bad above Guilliman, possibly.
Yeah, I think I would disagree if it wasn't for Istvan. If it wasn't for him basically having to go full Super Saiyan on Istvan and basically have to block out the trauma of hundreds of thousands dying around him, I would probably not be inclined to put him that high. But I think with that in mind, I'd have to agree.
I mean, it's also pretty sad that he sort of dedicated his entire current being to just rabidly hunting down Lorgar in the warp at the moment.
Yeah.
I think that's a bit underrated on the tragedy scale, to be fair.
No, I think you're right.
He's lost his whole sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Just to fucking kill a dude.
Yeah. Right, gentlemen, next up is Lorgar Aurelian.
My blood is already boiling. Oh my lord.
So before we say anything, Lorgar was viciously beaten as a child.
How?
Good.
Good.
I was going to say that, but I was like, no, I'll be good. I'll be good. And then he's
like,
good.
Not to be like that guy, but like, how?
His dad had 20/20 fucking foresight.
I mean, he's a Primarch. Like, you couldn't. He's a Primarch. You literally can. I mean, emotionally, yeah, but like, you can't. I think it even states in that book, like, Lorgar knows his adoptive father, Corvus, is like kind of a piece of crap. And he lets him do it to him because he basically thinks it allows Corvus to sort of feel good about himself. Like Lorgar doesn't necessarily feel that bad about it. Like he's kind of like that little like he's like a little annoying nephew who like kicks your shins, and you're like, it's not that bad of a kick, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Corvus a fuck ass.
I mean,
he chose the two worst fucking people. Like he chose Corvus and Erebus. Like. Yeah. He kind of just did it to himself, I'm not going to lie. Like, the Emperor gave him a really simple rule. Don't do religion. And what did he do? Religion. Like,
yeah.
The consequences of his own actions.
Let's talk about Lorgar's real tragedy then, shall we?
Corvus on truly the ball sack that hangs lower to the Erebus ball sack.
Yeah, Tom, do you mean the tragedy that isn't just his existence as a whole?
I mean the burning of Monarchia. Because that really was, like... I'll be honest, even Guilliman was basically saying to the Emperor and Malcador, hey guys, this is a really bad fucking idea, we shouldn't do this. This is overkill, it's unnecessary. And Malcador is like, no, an example needs to be made, let's fucking make one. And Guilliman is literally saying to Malcador, he's like, no, just let me go down and talk to him. Just let me go down and talk to him. But Malcador's like, no, an example needs to be made once and for all. And it's like, okay, well, your fucking example was like... the one of two or three things that actually guaranteed the heresy, right?
It's just for some context. Monarchia is Monarchia the city or Monarchia the world, and the city is something else? I can't remember. I think Monarchia is the city on the world, but essentially Monarchia is the quote-unquote perfect word-bearer city. It's one that they stayed behind after they conquered, and they shaped it to be like the most amazing, like, religious city that worshipped the Emperor.
I mean, it was a jewel of the Imperium, like, as a point of fact, but yes. And yeah, it was the capital city of the planet, yes. The planet was called Kerr.
That was it, yeah. And they sort of word-bearers, they declared, like, literally, like, the best example of, like, their work. They're like, oh my god, we worship the Emperor, and this perfect civilization. It's like the most compliant, most amazing thing we have built in like the Great Crusade. And then the Ultramarines just wipe it from existence.
Yeah, give me the Ultramarines don't want to do this shit. Like, there's no point blaming the boys in blue for this. They not only do they not want to do it, their Primarch doesn't want to do it. They want to have nothing to do with it. And despite that, like the recompense they have to pay at Calth and like the fuck shit avenue across Ultramar. It ain't good because they did not want to do it. They wanted to stand up and not do that shit. But yeah, so there's a whole load of shit that happens after this. Like, not only does the burning of Monarchia,
the Emperor making them kneel too, psychically forcing them. Yeah, their own god that they believe to be their god forces them to kneel in the ground psychically, and then tells them their whole combat record has been a disgrace. And Lorgar is a shame to the Imperium. Yikes.
Yeah, it ain't great. It is real bad. I mean, that shit actually thoroughly changes Lorgar. And like, I mean, I'll tell you how bad that was, right? That shit was so bad, so that when the Horus Heresy started, all of the traitor legions had to cull anywhere from 1/5 to 1/3 of their legions. All of them did. Because obviously, huge chunks of their legions were going to remain loyal to the Emperor. The sole exception to that was the Word Bearers. The Word Bearers had to cull basically fucking nobody, because after the burning of Monarchia, they were ready for it. They wanted that shit, because they had taken their own, basically one of the biggest sources of their pride, and said this shouldn't be a source of pride, it should be a source of shame. The burning of Monarchia didn't just break Lorgar's relationship with Guilliman, the Emperor, and Malcador either. There were other Primarchs that wanted to say to Lorgar, oh, well, it's a lesson, learn from it, be better, yada yada. And Lorgar's like, yeah, no, fuck you. You've taken my life and you've destroyed it. Fuck you, fuck all of you. I'm gonna go fuck you all later on now, And it wasn't good, it was why, one of the things why Erebus, would have found it so easy to convert Lorgar, and why Lorgar would have found Horus's whole shtick so agreeable,
There's also that one moment on Istvan when it's the betrayal is happening, and Lorgar's been sort of corrupted by chaos, supposedly at this point, for like 50 years, and then he sees like his brothers and his other Imperials dying, and he actually has a panic moment where he goes like, oh my god, what am I doing? Like, what have I done?
Yeah.
And Corferon just basically said, pull yourself together, boy. Didn't you want this the entire time? And he's like, oh no. And then he has to nut up, and then he less sympathy.
But that's it. But that's one of the biggest things about a lot of the Primarchs right there. A lot of them have this thing where occasionally, during the Horus Heresy, especially during the early days of the Horus Heresy with the traitors, they'll have moments where very briefly they'll seem like children. They'll seem like regretful children who are just like, oh no, I just wanted to throw my toys out the pram. I didn't want to bring the house down. But when you're a Primarch, you can't have a tantrum as a Primarch. You can't have a spat, because when you do, empires apparently fall. So,
Oops.
It's a whole thing. I genuinely find Lorgar very easy to dog on, but I also really like Lorgar's character. I would be inclined to put Lorgar above, probably above Corvus, to be totally honest. Probably in Superhuman Sad, just above Corvus for me, personally.
Because at some point it does cut off, and then you stop feeling sorry for him, because he's totally into it.
Yeah, by the time of Calth, Lorgar is fully on board the fucking Chaos train. He is he is way in on it. He's goading Guilliman, taunting him, and fucking
straight
everything.
Up lob an orphanage at Guilliman if it hurt him.
Yeah, I have to agree to that. I think because even though he is a bit of a bastard later on, and with that, he loses a lot of my sympathy. In the beginning, like, the things he actually did go through are really traumatizing. So, superhuman sad is fine.
No, he had a really, really bad time. Right, gentlemen, let us move on to the most stoic individual in the entire
Guilliman.
setting, Rogal Dorn.
The second Guilliman.
Brick wall.
So this guy is like Crimea River, but without the loser part, honestly. You know, this guy got like... So in the End and the Death, minor spoilers for the End and the Death here, by the way, after they jump onto the Vengeful Spirit, Rogal Dorn gets kidnapped by Khorne. Rogal Dorn gets kidnapped by... Maybe this is an argument for him going higher up the list, actually, to be fair. Rogal Dorn gets kidnapped by Khorne, and he gets taken to an alternative dimension, which is basically just an infinite desert. And he keeps Dorn there for like 100 years, all the while trying to get Dorn to sort of yield to Khorne and fall to Khorne. And Dorn gets like really close at one point, and right when Dorn is on the precipice of falling to Khorne, for no apparent reason whatsoever, he's just like, nah, fuck you. Fuck it, I'm not falling. Fuck off. You know, so Dorn definitely doesn't have it easy, you know, and when we talk about the Emperor dying, like the final moment where the Emperor, not dying, but where the Emperor gets put on the Golden Throne, no one's going to tell me that there's any Primarch that took it more painfully than Rogal Dorn. You know, I mean, they all took it bad, because it's bad, but Dorn took it the worst. The Siege of Terror
is truly harrowing.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
By the end of it, because people forget, he doesn't sleep through the entire Siege of Terror.
Yeah, he just keeps
And like, by the end of it, he literally looks like a disheveled being. He has to send in, like, most of his own sons to die. Most of his own brothers, like Sanguinius, just dies. The Khan basically dies for him as well. And then pretty much, it just almost wipes him out as a person. And then by the end of it, the Emperor is mortally wounded. And so he failed. After the Siege of Terror, he is a completely broken being. He decides, like, it's all his fault.
Yeah.
Then he needs to purge his legion of all, like, their weakness. He starts putting his hand inside certain gloves, pain gloves, which are like to you know, basically sort of like flagellating yourself, sort of whipping yourself in that equivalent to get out of the weakness. He loses quite, like, basically half of his remaining survivors of his legion to Perturabo's Iron Cage, quote-unquote, incident.
Oh, yeah.
And by the end of it, what emerges is a purified force, but is a broken Primarch who would then apparently go on to get mauled by Black Legion in the first Black Crusade, and then he's gone. So, I mean, people that love this, put him right next to Perturabo for me. Like, he's just...
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I probably put him ahead of Perturabo. I wouldn't put him next to Perturabo. I'd put him ahead of Ferrus.
I think Dorn's got friends, though. I think Perturabo hasn't got a single friend, and I think Rogal Dorn...
That's true. I think you're right, actually, yeah. Because Perturabo never has any good moments.
Yeah.
He never gets any happiness.
And once again, he cannot be the worst in this list, so... But
Perturabo hates his own size
up
as well.
in the middle, nobody cares.
What do you reckon, Aaron?
Yeah, Dorn's a weird one. Just sort of dreary, I think. Yeah.
Dreary? You want him down there?
No.
I don't know. He just doesn't seem, like, affected by it. He just doesn't seem to care.
It happened.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though, right?
Because
he got better.
That's the thing, though, right? Because pre the Emperor being put on the Golden Throne, you're right. Pre the Emperor getting put on the throne, he does not give a fuck. But as soon as the Siege of Terror rolls around, he is a changed man. He's a broken man. So yeah, I gotta agree with Alex on Hal on this one. Do you reckon ahead of or behind Perty?
I would say only just behind, because at least Rogal Dorn likes and has his sons. Perturabo hates his own sons. There's not a single good thing in Perturabo's life.
Perturabo just hates fucking everything.
Even sunshine makes him...
Right, gentlemen, shall we talk about the biggest fucking idiot on this?
We already know where it's going to go, but we should mention why.
Well, can we at least explain why Konrad Curze is going in Crimea River loser before we do anything else?
Wait, in that one? I would say truly traumatized.
Oh, really? Oh, we're on opposite ends of the spectrum here. Holy shit. This is the thing. All right, well, let me explain my point then. Like, this is the thing. Like, Konrad Curze, I'm sort of in Sanguinius's camp when it comes to Konrad Curze, because Sanguinius's view of Curze is a whole load of you are too fucking weak and too fucking, what's the word?
Pathetic.
Oh, God. So, like, because they kind of have the same problem, but Curze's is turned up to 11. But at no point does Curze ever try to fight it. And Sanguinius sees that in Curze and is like, you don't try and change your own nature. Even Sevatar, it says to Curze, is like, because Curze goes on this spiel about how, no, it must be this way, it must be that, and Sevatar is like, yeah, but have you ever tried anything else? Did you try to do any of the things? Like, have you seen that your brothers are able to do this in another way? Did you ever try doing it like them? And Curze is just like, meh. You know, I see that Curze has had such a terrible start, right? Such a terrible, terrible start. And maybe that alone takes him out of Crimea River loser.
His start on...
But so much of his shit, I feel, is self-inflicted.
Nostromo, when he first awoke, because when Astartes or Primarchs eat brain matter, they absorb the memories and often emotions of their food. And Konrad only ate people in Nostromo, and so when he was immediately essentially a baby Primarch, the first mindset, the first images, and the first thoughts were of literally the worst humans in the entire galaxy, were the people of Nostromo, who are essentially the worst crime planet ever. And then essentially, as soon as he's awake, he's inflicted by mad visions that we find out later on. Essentially, the Chaos Gods somewhat taunted him with some of these visions. So some of them were him seeing the future, and then some of them were actually just them taunting him and messing with him. So some of his downfall was scooted along. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's obviously a monster, but it was a created monster. That, by the way, the Emperor also went oh, he seems a bit messed up. Go ahead and start running about, because the Emperor is desperate to finish. Surely you don't send your mentally ill general out when.
No, that is entirely fair.
I get I don't feel sympathy, but I think his whole story is summed up by the word tragic. Even by the end of it, when he's essentially a crying, mewling person who's holding degloved meat bags in the shape of the Emperor, and he's crying, being why didn't you tell me I could choose my own destiny? I've this whole time I know it's my fault and I can't handle that. That's why I kill people. Oops. So the whole, and then even at the end of that final death where he literally dies so that he can escape his own guilt. So I just he is summed up by the word of tragedy.
Yeah, when you put it like that.
That's my cards on the table,
I think,
boys.
maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh then, because he's very easy to dog on for making mistakes. You are right. You have thoroughly convinced me. What do you two reckon?
I'm gonna give him, at best, a high dreary.
What?
You reckon?
Oh,
yeah.
I'm
crazy.
with Alex on this.
He
does.
I don't like him.
That's it.
He does too much wrong shit of his own volition for me to get any fucking pity.
The
Fuck
fact
that guy.
He's
the
mad.
fact that the fact that he literally met another Primarch.
Person.
The fact that he met another Primarch with the exact same problem, and he didn't learn from that. It's just one of those cases of Crimea River loser, but because he had a bit of a bad start, I'll give him that, so I'll put him in dreary.
If you were, the first people Sanguinius met, they took care of him and loved him. The first person Konrad Curze met tried to kill him, and so he ate him and then he absorbed his brain.
Yeah, but you're also a god being. Some bad experiences in the beginning. You can fix yourself later, right? Hey, man, I'm an Angron fan. Leave me alone.
Bruh. Sanguinius saw the future, but Konrad Curze saw every single. I think his one's a little bit stronger than Sanguinius's. Oh, to be fair, that scene where like they're both standing on Macragge, and essentially they don't fight each other because they can see the outcome of every single fight, so they're standing there like doing like Professor X shit. Like that was weird. I mean, like the whole point is like Konrad Curze like is a tragic example of, you know, someone who believes their power, someone who's a slave to destiny and fate. Like that's the theme of the story.
Yeah.
That is true.
You're
There
not meant
is
to be
one
like,
thing
oh, I
in
feel
it for
bad
me.
for it. You're meant to be like, what a horrific example of how far
He is one of the few Primarchs that got exactly what he wanted.
I think he wanted to be left alone.
that's right.
Well, it got exactly what he wanted in a sense that his life was so bad he wanted to die, and so he died.
Yeah.
I don't know if that qualifies as a positive.
Better than the Angron tree. He
I
got
mean,
what
Angron
wanted.
gets to die every 8 months, or like every 8 days at this point.
Nah, I'm going to be outvoted in this one.
Although it's just for me a case of like there's so many points where he could have changed, where he could have tried, and within that he just really did keep on playing into this. And I get it, of course, he had an awful beginning, and a lot of things that happens afterwards as well, seeing the future like that must be absolutely awful. But he also had many moments where he could have gone for the better choice, where he could have fixed a lot of his future problems, but because he truly believed it was the set future, that is the way it's going to be, he didn't choose to do anything. And for me, that like brings down his grading.
The whole point is
bit.
he doesn't have, like, for him, he doesn't believe in, like, he has choice. So saying someone who has to choose to do the right thing, if he chose to do the right thing at any point, that means everything he did before was meaningless, and he would have crumpled on the spot. And pretty much most humans don't acknowledge their wrongdoing that easily.
Yeah,
that is very fair.
Well, here's a little argument for truly traumatized. He is the only Primarch other than Angron who, without chaos, is still completely mentally ill.
That is a fair point.
Totally and wholeheartedly broken. So you know what? I'm going to double down. I don't think he quite. Do you reckon he outweighs Angron, Hal? Just in your opinion?
Angron is
all right.
It was done to him, whereas there's a little bit of like Curze's its own. He
like what Alex is saying, a little bit of his own choices in there. Yeah,
he is again like somewhat responsible for his own like problems.
I'll be willing to put him on super high espresso depresso.
Oh, we've got a compromise. We love it.
Aaron, are you sticking with Drury, or have we not convinced you?
Not a fucking chance. Get him in the fucking bin.
All right, cool. So we got 2 Drury traumatized,
the ears the
one
entire
high
time.
espresso, and 1 Drury. I think that plucked him at low espresso depresso.
Yeah.
If we're going for a group average.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Fucking the lion. I'm sorry. This is a Crimea River loser moment.
Honest to God.
I'm really sorry. The lion, after the lion punched that one guy to death for like no fucking reason. No. This guy handed fucking Perturabo the keys to the castle because of his fucking ego, and then basically secondhand contributed to the Istvan drop site massacre. I'm sorry. This guy. I mean, I like New Lion. I like 40k Lion. Son of the Forest Lion is really cool. I really like him.
He's a really cool character there,
but Horus Heresy Lion's a jackass with plot armor, mind you, with a jackass with plot armor. He argues with Guilliman for like no good fucking reason because like Guilliman is always the smartest fucking guy in the room, and Horus Heresy Lion can't fucking hack that.
I think from the Lion's perspective, the ones who killed Conal Guilliman before, they're called the Illyrians. They're always like a separatist group, and Guilliman, the Lion's problem with Guilliman is like Guilliman's such a diplomat, he's allowing these Illyrians to like continue on, which then goes on to almost single-handedly aid Konrad Curze and like almost crumple the Macragge.
Yeah.
Because basically the Lion's problem with Guilliman is like he's so willing to compromise. He's willing to compromise with people who essentially will always be an existential threat to the Imperium. Like even to 40k, the Illyrians who live on Macragge don't like the Imperium and want to secede from it, and they're always this point where like chaos cultists spring up. So essentially the Lion is basically going like, you like the line goes, on my world, we had a problem. There was another order of knights who were a problem. I got rid of him, and you know what I mean? Like, I achieved peace. You want to have peace with people who don't understand the concept. So he essentially they butt heads because Guilliman's a administrator and the Lion is a conqueror and a tactician, and it doesn't make sense to have a weakness like that.
It's going to be really... I mean, I know this is off topic. It's going to be really interesting to see these two meet again when that finally happens. Because the Lion is a changed man now. He is so much... I mean, he's still headstrong and prideful and powerful, but now he's contemplative, which he never was before.
Yeah.
Which, for someone like him, is such a huge, huge thing. But anyway, sorry, beside the point.
Nothing really tragic, though, is it? I mean, let's be honest.
No, I mean, I know Caliban blew up, but to him, Caliban was just a base of operations.
He didn't even visit in the entire Great Crusade.
No, he didn't give a fuck. And Luther, the guy who raised him, he didn't give a fuck about.
Yeah, this is really unfortunate. This is just an unfortunate event. Like, oh, man. And he just kind of continued.
I'm sorry, but the Lion, I'm going to say it right now, the Lion is... I mean, I like the Lion, I really do, but he is at the very ass end of Crimea River loser.
Yeah,
truly.
He's straight up just a form of Crimea River. Not even a loser, but just Crimea River.
Emotional range of a teaspoon.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, actually, that's the thing as well. He probably could have had half of the tragedies that the others had, and he still wouldn't have given a fuck.
Yeah.
This guy is so emotionally disconnected.
Fucking emotional null rod of a person.
Yeah, I'm putting him at the ass end of Crimea River loser, right where he belongs, honestly. Right, gentlemen, we have Mortarion.
I am the strongest soldier. I am Mortarion's.
Go on, Mortarion's strongest soldier. You've got an actual plague marine in the room, and you're saying that, so you better have a really good fucking argument. Come on, let's hear it.
Today's subject: slavery. Okay, poor old.
Yeah, that's a pretty good fucking argument, man.
Mortarion lands in a it reeks. Lands on Barbarous. That's already literally lands in a garbage world.
Lands on the cancer planet.
Lands on garbage world. Already in L. Gets adopted by a necromancer who hates him, kind of, but Loki like studying him. Gets prodded, tested, thrown at mock battles against other necromantic warlords. Almost dies basically daily. He's not allowed near other humans because if apparently he's near other humans, he probably knows what exactly is going to happen next. And when he first finds humans, he basically goes like, "No, you shall not kill humans." It's like, because I will protect them. Doesn't do very well online at the beginning, but sort of he picks up, the scythe, and the first thing he does is he tries to help like gain the trust of the people of Barbarous who are like cowed and live in like they only have habitable zones. He sort of helps them like farm initially. Like he wants to earn their trust, but he finds out the best way to earn people's trust is by killing the people who kill them. So he ends up going on a sort of, almost like a proper Spartacus thing where he goes to unites all the people of Barbarous underneath him because they will not be enslaved to tyrants anymore. Never again would he or any of them be enslaved to people, nor would they be like guinea pigs for serving anyone else's war. And then turns out the only last warlord is his father, who sits on the highest peak. And then the Emperor arrives, and the Emperor disappears. He's all golden, all clean and speckly. And Mortarion's like, "Who the hell are you? I just failed my first attack, and I lost some of my friends against like my first siege of my father's house. And then you're just here chilling in my tent. Who the hell are you?" The Emperor says, if you win, I'll let you and Barbarous be free. As if like he had permission to let them be free.
Yeah.
Mortarion's like, fine, I'll go set my people free, and I'll go kill the guy who enslaved me. Almost makes it to the top end, almost dies, like coughing on basically, diarrhea like juice smell. And then the Emperor goes, turns out you're not good enough, and now I'll steal your vengeance from you, and then I'm gonna go, and now you have to serve the Imperium. Isn't that crazy? That's what you always wanted, right? And then he's like, no! Our whole point was that we were not meant to serve people, but an oath is an oath, So Mortarion reluctantly agrees to go fight the Imperium's enemies or whatever. And, I mean, to be fair, like, what other characters like Horus say, the ultimate tragedy about Mortarion is that his whole childhood he's only taught to be a soldier and a killer. So when he fights during the Great Crusade, like Sanguinius and Horus remark that, when you go somewhere, you basically leave it worse than when you found it, no matter what. And Mortarion just doesn't understand the concept of building a future, which means he'll probably get killed by the Emperor at some point. So the Emperor will enslave him, in some regard, enslave the people of Barbarous, and then will probably kill them because they most likely, like him, Angron or Curze, are no good in the Golden Age to come. And then Mortarion is like convinced of all this by Horus, basically like, you hate Psykers, right? Like, the Emperor's like the most powerful Psyker of all. I know, right? Because, my own is like, I've had 2 dads who are like super powerful Psykers who've enslaved me. It's kind of crazy. Low-key keeps happening.
But he even vents that shit at Malkador one time, where he actually stalks Malkador through the palace, and Malkador is like, I know you're following me. So in response, Mortarion picks him up by the neck, chokes him very briefly, and says, listen... Oh shit, I have to cut that out.
Listen, asshole.
Tom, message to Tom in post, cut that shit out and go from here on. Picks him up and says, listen, I will never kneel to the Imperium whilst you allow witches in it. And he's like, I know what you are, you're a witch. And you get to see in the narration, you get to see Malkador's sort of thought process. And he's basically sat there like, shit, I can't really do anything about this, so I'm just going to let him do what he needs to do. And obviously Mortarion calms down and throws him on the floor, and it's like, okay, this isn't even the start of his hatred towards Psykers, right? I mean, it's obviously the grand irony is that he becomes one, Yeah. But then fast forward to the Council of Nicaea, he's basically like the loudest fucking voice there on the opposition, It's quite something. And if you fast forward to Mortarion in 40k, if you want to add just another little helping of tragedy there as well, the Emperor talks to Mortarion through Guilliman very briefly, and it's like, he's almost like saying to him, listen, I can forgive you, it's okay, but not now, not today, I can't do it right now. And then Malkador basically just gets sucked into the Garden of Nurgle for some kind of eternal punishment. And it's like, okay, you're being tortured in Warp Hell. The Primarchs don't get tortured in Warp Hell. That's not something that happens to Primarchs. Well, it happens to fucking Morty.
And then, I mean, his whole thing is when he finds out he himself is like a latent psyker, he almost feels like he literally hates himself even more.
Yeah.
And then when his legion,
quite a strong one at that, to be fair.
Legion's about to die, like he only cares about his legion at this point because like they're the sons of Barbarous, and they're all about to die, and only if he then swears to Nurgle will they live. And so he's like, you know what, my life isn't as important as them. So he's like, fine, I'll like again for a third time. He is forced to kneel by this psychic creature and then enslaved again. And his whole thing about people said they don't like his character often because like, oh, he's such a hypocrite.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. That every single Primarch is in and is actually like Mortarion points out, you're actually just the same as me. You're a warmongering hypocrite, but he's very much self-aware of it. Most of them obviously point it out. It's very ironic that the guy who hates Psyker so much ended up serving Chaos, which again against his own will. But he never takes a W. He's the only Primarch who doesn't have a single. Maybe other than like Angron has a nice memory to think about. Like Mortarion's nice memory was like he almost had a nice memory. Like he almost set his people free, or he had something to like. Maybe he's like somewhat similar to Angron, but
I think I
not
think
as
you're
tragic.
Trying to compare him and Angron with a nice memory is a little bit deluded.
maybe.
I don't think Angron has the capacity to remember nice, despite the fact that he did experience something nice. But I do see what you're saying.
Because he never like had true, like even his supposed closest friend Typhus, they weren't like chummy. Like he doesn't like Mortarion never knew how to be close to anybody, whereas like Angron actually
Well, Typhus was the problem in the end, wasn't he? Because Typhus was in cahoots with Nurgle. It's quite funny, because like when people think of the people who started the heresy, my brain immediately goes to Typhus and Erebus before it goes to Lorgar or Horus, which is fun.
I just feel like Mortarion just gets in a weird way, deservedly, but he gets there's nothing good for him.
Well, yeah, I mean,
not as sad as the others. Though.
We like to make the argument with Curze that Curze had all these opportunities to change his ways, whereas with Mortarion, it's like he had those opportunities, but it's also very much, well, why would he?
Yeah.
Why would he? Why would he ever do that? What possible compelling reason would he have to do that? And the answer is none. Like, despite him being a dick, he is very obviously the product of his environment in a way that, like, there was no way he would be anything other than that.
And it's mentioned in his Primarch novel where it is Sanguinius and Horus are kind of like ripping on him, and they do kind of mention the fact like he was never given anything like with kindness, love, or anything like he was never taught how to build things, how to like create civilizations, or how to rule. Like, so he's actually never had a good thing. I don't think he's as tragic as like pretty much most of this list. I will say maybe between Konrad Curze and Guilliman, possibly, because again, like, because I just don't feel that bad for him. I feel bad, but like I feel worse for everyone else above him.
Yeah, and there is also the fact that it's kind of hard to put him really high up the list when he's a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
So I think I'd be inclined to agree with that. I think he's definitely more than Alpharius Omegon. Definitely a little bit more than... I'd probably put him ahead of Corvus.
Oh, that's Corvus. Sorry, I meant Corvus.
I'd probably put him behind Lorgar, though, to be fair.
Sorry.
Behind Lorgar?
Yeah, I wouldn't put him ahead of Lorgar. I think Lorgar had it worse.
Yeah, Lorgar cried.
Just because...
yeah, that's pretty fair.
The thing is, Morty has always known hatred and resentment, but he's never known humiliation and shame, like Lorgar.
Yeah, agreed.
So I think I'm gonna. Can I put him between these two? Can I put him between Lorgar and Corvus?
Hell yeah!
I think that's the right place to put him. The first time, Aaron, Morty has gone on one of the Astartes Anonymous tier lists without being immediately chucked to the bottom.
Yeah. But it's almost as if being the top of this list is a bad thing.
Yeah, quite. So, gentlemen, next up we have Leman Russ. So I will throw this right out there. This is another Crimea River loser moment, because Leman Russ is much like the Lion, despite the two of them being at each other's throats a lot, have more in common than not, which is very fun.
He's just kind of sad, so now and then that the Horus Heresy happens. I mean, who isn't? And, that's about it.
He grew up on a really dangerous planet, but, like, he was so suited to that planet, so, like, I'm not going to put that down as a negative.
He was having a blast.
I think the only tragic moment I could think of was when he stabbed himself with the Apollonian spear, or the Dionysian spear, one of the two. And then he discovered the fact that, like, the Primarchs are creations of the warp, and he basically realizes, like, his life is kind of, like, Horus is slightly right about the Emperor, and he kind of doesn't... It makes him very depressed for a while. Also, when he fails to put down Horus, like, he glimpses Horus for a brief second, and then immediately chaos, like, returns into his body after he stabbed him, and then all his sons, like... But they have a reenactment of the Guilliman Fulgrim thing, where, like, his son like throw themselves at Horus so they can drag Leman away, being like, "You must live," and he's like, "No, stop dying, please." It's cringe. I have as much sympathy for him as I could probably throw a boulder, like not far. Like so, yeah.
Yeah, I think honestly, I'll be straight with you. He is like barely ahead of the Lion.
Yeah, barely.
The Lion is just incapable of understanding what is going on.
Yeah, he is barely ahead of the Lion, I think. Behind Fulgrim, behind Horus.
Yeah. Well, that's where Fulgrim would love him to be.
Thoroughly in Crimea River loser.
Is happy for him to be behind.
Yeah, no, he's fucking in there. Ain't no way he's coming out of that one.
I'm putting this in. And this is fun, though, because this is one of those few topics, because there is always the rivalry between the Dark Angels and the Space Wolves, right? But this is one of those unique moments where it's very much, hey, look, these two are pretty much the same. These two have so much in common, despite kind of despising each other a little bit.
I think it's a case because they already had a lot of their struggles, of course, early on, a lot of that competition early on. It kind of shaped them as brothers, where it kind of feels like, that the difference between the new people and like the old guard of an army, right?
Yeah.
And these are the guys that have always beef with each other. It's like the artillery and the tanks are like having a fight. Whatever happens for the rest doesn't really matter because what doesn't change is their rivalry. And I think that's kind of both made them a little bit more suited to handle everything they've been going through, like in the Horus Heresy and afterwards. So they fit really well there. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. Right, gentlemen. Next up, we have Sanguinius. So Sanguinius, as stated before, did have some psychic stuff comparable to Konrad. However, he had a pretty decent upbringing, all things considered.
He was loved. Damn right. With a face like that. My beloved. God.
My beloved.
Bruh, there is no he, him, or anything like that. It's Sanguinius. You know what I'm saying? It's Sanguinius.
Yeah, exactly.
The dude can get it.
Smash next.
Some tragedy is like he basically saw how he was going to die pretty early on.
Yeah.
At the hands of Horus.
But he had that is sad and that is tragic, but Sanguinius had so much acceptance of it. In fact, that was so good that when it came to the Siege of Terra, he was like taking on titans and shit, going, I'm not fated to die here, so I've basically got plot armor. Like, he's the only character in 40k to become self-aware of his own plot armor and then use that, which is great.
But I think his most tragic would be an event called Cygnus Prime, where essentially is the chaos trap for the Blood Angels, where they try and turn them to the worship of basically Khorne. They try and activate like the Black Rage or Red Thirst within the entire Legion. I think Sanguinius sees a part of himself, and he's obviously afflicted by it as well, to the point where like it truly, like when he meets his brother the Lion and Guilliman later on, because obviously Horus didn't quite succeed, or Erebus didn't quite succeed. That he's kind of very like they can sense he's quite depressed about not necessarily his fate, but about the fact that like he has inflicted something horrific to his own sons, and it's like something he's done to them. Like there's something wrong with him, and he's had to kill a few of his own sons over the Great Crusade because there's a genetic default within it's more of a psychic wound in the Blood Angels. And then obviously the most tragic part is the fact that like, in the book Ruinstorm, which is before they get to Terra, there's a small like vision quest where like Sanguinius like he sees like the most slimmest like glimpse of possibilities that he actually could beat Horus. There's one single thread of fate or future where he could beat Horus. So by the time he arrives to the Vengeful Spirit to fight Horus, he literally thinks like I could win this, and he's trying his damnedest to actually like I'm going to like Horus is once my best friend, but I'm gonna put him down, and then Horus just mauls him. He beats him to death in not gracefully. It like just beats him to death and then hangs his corpse above his own throne, and then his entire legion is forever then will suffer 10,000 years of psychic backlash from his death. So pretty high up there, I'd say.
Yeah,
pretty tragic.
I mean, everyone feels bad.
I don't know if he's top spot, but
No, I don't think he makes it truly traumatized. No. I think this is the thing about Sanguinius, though, that's really relevant throughout all of this. And it's much for the same reason why Dorn doesn't make it truly traumatized, despite having the worst time after the heresy. And that's that he handles all of it brilliantly. The saddest you see him is, I think it's a conversation. I mean, maybe Cygnus Prime, but outside of that, is the saddest you see him is like a conversation during the Great Crusade between him and Horus. And Horus basically sees Sanguinius like put down one of his own men. And Sanguinius is like panicking and freaking out, and Horus is like, why did you just kill your own dude? And he's like, obviously Horus then finds out about the Red Thirst, and Sanguinius is like, well, I have to because you know what happened to the 2nd and the 11th. I don't need that happening to me. And it's this moment of vulnerability where he's just this one moment where he's like freaking out and panicking. And then you can sort of double that up with his, precognition. And he's like, yeah, no, Horus, you can't fucking tell anyone or I'm fucked. So you could argue if the Red Thirst became more sort of widely known at that point, that he knew it would fuck him up. So he's got this whole thing as well where he has to live his entire life in this state of paranoia, because he knows if he's found out, it all goes in the bin, or at least he believes it all goes in the bin.
I don't know where I put on the list though. I feel like he should be more tragic than Ferrus Manus in some regard, just because despite the good moments, like the lows on Sanguinius are low. Like, they are pretty like, damn, that's a rough spot.
Yeah.
Ultimately...
All right, well, let's take votes then, right? Because I struggle in my own mind to put him higher than Curze. And I said for Curze was in Truly Traumatized, even though Democracy put him lower. So I would be inclined to put Sanguinius at the high end of Espresso Depresso, even though that would put him ahead of Curze. I still think that we have to rate them sort of, again, democratically. So yeah, my vote is the high end of Espresso Depresso.
I think the top end... bro, everyone is sad that Sanguinius is dead. Come on.
Yeah, that's true. It was the tragedy. It was the Primarch tragedy. That is very true.
Yeah.
My boy got ruffled.
But it's more so like their tragedy is not what they as a tragedy was. Is what I'm not really getting. Him dying, yes, affected his legion for God knows how long, but that wasn't a tragedy for Sanguinius.
Yeah, but we use that same logic to put Ferrus Manus at the high end of Espresso Depresso, and I think if it can apply for Ferrus, it can apply for Sanguinius.
That wasn't my logic, Chief. That wasn't my logic.
All right, let's take some votes then. I'm going to put high Espresso. Aaron, where are you putting him?
High Superhuman Sad.
All right. Alex?
Between Ferrus Manus and Perturabo.
All right,
I'll put him above Ferrus Manus.
All right, we've got two above Ferrus, one that's just on the other side of Ferrus, and one that's high Superhuman Sad. I think that averages him out where Alex wants him.
Yes!
It's fine, because Aaron doesn't feel human emotions.
We're going to put him where Alex wants him. So, gentlemen, to anyone listening or watching, again, this is done democratically, which means you can agree with one of us, you can disagree with all of us, but it's a democracy. This is how democracy works.
And if you're wrong, we're in your walls.
Like that one guy said, democracy is for the people, but the people, they ain't very bright. So, gentlemen, moving on to the final one for this list. Sorry, not the final one. The second to last one is Vulkan.
Cry me a river. I might be the only person in the universe who doesn't care for Vulkan.
Vulkan got tortured to fuck for years and went mentally insane.
I had to read the books with Vulkan. I had to read the Salamander Heroes Heresy books, and I've already suffered enough. I'm not gonna lie, I can't believe I went through that.
Come on, you got to give me more context.
Well, they're incredibly boring.
They're giving us much democracy.
I find that they're all incredibly boring, unfortunately, to the point where.
I don't know if boring qualifies.
I don't feel sad for Vulkan because he basically just regenerates and comes back. Like the whole point, he just doesn't. And by the end of the Horus,
but no, don't
Horus
you
Heresy,
see? Have you not
read? It's Terror. He's all good.
No, have you not read any Wolverine stories? The fact that he can regenerate adds to his tragedy.
When you see him in the Siege of Terror, is it Echoes of Eternity, and he faces off against Magnus at no point has to pluck on his trauma, because Vulkan's exactly the same character he was in that point in the heresy to the start of the Great Crusade. The dude does not change.
That's true.
The dude is I'm just I like giving people hugs. That's nice. He's on paper should be my favorite Primarch. And then I read the novel with him in it, and I honestly wanted to smash my head against the wall.
No, I mean, there is the thing as well, Vulkan does get a, what's he called? Vulkan gets the whole stereotyping huggy man. But, I mean, I said this earlier in the episode, Vulkan is just like the rest of the Primarchs, is a genocidal
not to Eldar children.
Warlord. He is, in terms of, his actions and the things he's done, he is barely any better than any of them.
Crimea River.
You know, the fact that he's nice to them and actually hugged Rogal Dorn doesn't, forced Rogal Dorn to hug him. It doesn't really, I still think he isn't in Crimea River loser though. I totally get what you're saying, but I think he's probably, I'd probably put him as dreary ahead of Jaghatai. If I'm being frank, I wouldn't put him behind Jaghatai.
I could live with that.
I mean, him being like a bit boring quotations and having little character development doesn't dissuade the fact what happened to him was fucked up and tragic as shit. To be fair,
yeah, but in the same way though that Sanguinius didn't get truly traumatized because he dealt with it well, is the same logic for Vulkan, because Vulkan had that happen to him and then just bounced the fuck back.
It well. He didn't handle it well. That fucking Eldar child. He was fucking a bit. I think he still is fucking deranged. He was physically, yes. His mental was still fucked. Like he did.
Well, I was more thinking about him getting kidnapped by Curze, because he gets kidnapped by Curze after the drop site massacre, and Curze tortures him unto madness.
Yes,
and that to me, that's way more important than the Eldar child, right?
Oh, but I'm saying it's compound interest. It's like he's just a disintegrating mental state in an immortal body. He's never going to get better. He's only going to get worse and worse as more things happen, and he can't do anything about it. And that itself is fucking sad.
And then he does get better. He literally does get better.
Yeah, but that's my point. He does get better though. Like by the time he has that, like Hal said, by the time he has that interaction with Magnus during the siege, Magnus has nothing to work with because Vulkan is like, yeah, no, I'm fine. Vulkan is so virtuously grandstanding over Magnus in that conversation. I mean, we could talk about the War of the Beast. If we wanted to,
I don't feel like
please.
That does much to his character didn't evolve. It just disappeared in a massive explosion.
He fell into the big goon tank and then he disappeared. Okay, we don't know.
He's the only Primarch that, like, when he went missing, it actually kind of, in a weird roundabout way, became more hopeful for his Legion.
Yeah.
Or his or his successors, or the South, whatever. Because it was like, aha, you guys have to go on an Easter egg hunt now, and it's gonna be fun.
I don't know what the fuck that was about, to be fair. That was
it's weird. The War of the Beast, everything related to the War of the Beast
Dreamy
is weird.
demigod.
It's a bit of a
throw him in there. Put him in the bin. Just...
Yeah. Okay, all right. Well, let's take votes then, right? Because we're gonna have to do this one democratically. I think we're gonna have to ask Aaron first, right? What do you think?
I was just gonna put him in like middle superhuman to low end superhuman, to be honest.
All right, so between
I think
between
Dreamy
Guilliman and
is undermining it a bit.
Not Konrad, sorry, Corvus?
Just around Guilliman, probably, yeah.
All right,
Either
somewhere in that
before or
area.
after.
What do you reckon, Alex?
Oh, I'm putting him right behind Alpharius.
So ass end of superhuman sad. All right.
Yeah.
How do you reckon?
To be fair, I'll put him in Drew behind Jaghatai, but I honestly would literally chuck him right next to Horus if I could. Because I feel worse for Horus than Vulkan. Because Horus actually had some characters around him who were cool and I cared about who died. Vulkan has...
that's true. I feel worse for... I do feel worse for Horus than Vulkan. All right, well, I'll put him there then. All right, let's average this shit out. So we got two people, one for mid-superhuman sad, one for low superhuman sad, and then two for just behind Horus. I think that Deadass puts him either just in front of or just behind Jaghatai.
Probably just behind.
I think because
it's like mid to low superhuman and high crimey, so probably just behind Jaghatai.
Well, I think because you put him mid, I think behind or ahead of. Like if he's ahead of, that means he's higher up the list technically.
Behind Jaghatai for me. Right?
Yeah, I'd say behind. Yeah,
all right, behind
going by
Jaghatai.
Democracy, it sounds like he's behind.
All right, cool. Right,
Democracy manifest.
Finally, the final one for the list at the around coming up to 2 hours now. We have Magnus the Red.
Magnusi.
Hal, I know you have a few things you want to say about this man, so would you like to take it away?
My blood's boiling already.
Get him!
He didn't deserve the 1,000 suns. Mister, listen, I am fine. I can never make a mistake. I'm so smart. Whoops. I actually played into enemies' hands the entire time because I thought I was too good to get tricked. My man literally is responsible for the whole problem with, like, literally psychic power getting outlawed during the Council of Nicaea. He did a good speech, but ultimately, like, the whole point of, like, him hiding away and the fact that his sons are going through, like, the flesh change still. Oops, didn't kill that. Lied about that. Already bargained with Tzeentch, who, you know, idiot. Fall of Prospero happens, and he says, "No, guys, I have to sacrifice my legion, and it will be tragic for them." But
I'm getting some deja vu here, Tom. Are you getting that?
Well, it's almost,
you getting this?
It's almost like he wants himself to be a tragic figure, but just
at
isn't.
no point did he go like, "Oh my god, Leman Russ has arrived. What if I just went out and talked to him and the custodies outside?" No, I better let the Legion and Prospero, the billions of people who live in Prospero, die, because that will help the Imperium. And even the whole point of Echoes of Eternity, the Siege of Terror book, literally Vulkan says to him, like, at no point did you even think to go outside and try and stop the tragedy because you were wallowing in your own self-pity. And then even when you committed to sacrificing your Legion to supposedly, you know, make the Imperium like come out fairer, a better fight against Horus, you then changed your mind at the worst possible time when there were literally only 1,000 sons left at the end. And then he lost the wizard lost a melee fight. He shouldn't have been in a melee fight. And then gets his back broken, his soul is shattered, and his sons, who like he just low key betrayed. He even iced one of them who was about to tell the Legion that the attack was coming. Yeah. He went to go. His body was broken into like shards of Magnus, and so the sons that he betrayed then went to go reforge him, and he was like, "You know what we really need to do now? We need to go attack Terra." Like, why?
Yeah.
What? Because there's a shard of Magnus there? So you couldn't at any point be like, "Yo, Emperor, can I get my shard, please?" Like, you didn't think of asking? Idiot. Oh. And then when he's presented with the opportunity to come back, and then the Emperor says, "You can join my side once again, but you know your sons that are corrupted by Tzeentch? Those ones. Yeah. They're no good anymore." Like, what? You mean the sons I was attempting to kill at Prospero earlier? I'm going to die for them now. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I think, alright, well, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'll be straight. He is at the ass end of Crimea River Loser, because he actually has the argument I had for Curze, but it's real this time. And that's that his shit is so self-inflicted. All his tragedy is self-inflicted. All the bad things that happen to his Legion are self-inflicted. Fucking Azek Ahriman is a better Primarch for the Thousand Sons than Magnus. I'm going to be honest. Even though the planet he grew up on was a complete steaming shit heap, he is still lower down than the Lion. Even though he has more emotion than the Lion, he is still lower down than the Lion. So yeah, I'm going to agree with Hal on this one, and anyone else who wants... Oh, can we all agree that he goes in the ass end of Crimea River Loser?
Embarrassing
It's unfortunate, but yes.
Embarrassing.
Yep. You can go there.
God.
Ugh.
Right, gentlemen, we have our completed Primarch Tragedy tier list chosen by democracy. So to anyone watching, we understand that these things aren't perfect, but this is how democracy works. Sometimes you just have to agree to disagree. I'm glad I think a few of these are perfect, though. I think our bottom 3 for Crimea River Loser are perfect. I think our number 1 for Truly Traumatized is perfect. I think Jaghatai is also right where he should be. And I think all of our ones for Superhuman Sad are perfect as well. Right?
Yeah, some could rejig it, possibly. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if I had my way, I think after the conversation, because I went into our conversation about Curze, ready to dog on Curze, but you really convinced me about that. You really convinced me that Curze actually is quite a tragic figure. I think personally, I think you have a similar thing for Mortarion as well. I think my instinct for Mortarion is just because he is a dick.
Yeah.
And when you know a character's a dick, it's kind of hard to empathize with them. But when you think about Mortarion a little bit more, it becomes a bit obvious that actually, hold up, He's kind of been through some shit. I think, in retrospect, we were probably a little bit too generous to Corvus.
Yeah.
I think Corvus, if I could change one, I'd probably put Corvus a bit lower down, to be fair.
Maybe would put Ferrus below Perturabo.
Yeah, I feel like I'd be inclined to change that now, if you guys agree.
I'm alright with it. Yeah.
I would like to move Magnus up to Superhuman Sad.
What? No.
Why?
No,
He's
sorry,
trolling.
truly traumatized even.
Truly trolling. Yeah, he's trolling. Fuck off. Yeah, no, I think these three, Leman, the Lion, and Magnus, I think those are all right where they should be, honestly, because these two, like, are just so unaffected by things, and this guy's an idiot. I mean, I like Magnus, and I really liked a lot of the dialogue he had at the start of the burning of Prospero. I think it was really interesting dialogue, but he is a dumbass.
He's the definition of fumbled the bag.
Yeah. I think Vulkan, I could see an argument for Vulkan being higher, but I do see why we ended up putting him there in the end.
Yeah.
Same for Jaghatai. Jaghatai's such a normal dude. Why is he such a normal dude?
He's just
just a guy.
Base
To be
guy.
fair, the only maybe I would consider putting Vulkan above Jaghatai, just because like Jaghatai just seems like he always comes out of it all right.
Yeah, I'm going to make that change. I wanted to do that earlier, because when we were putting Vulkan in, I was thinking, nah, he probably
I
belongs
just dislike
ahead of
Vulkan because he's boring.
Yeah, but that's the same about so many of them, right? We put Ferrus Manus up here. Ferrus Manus is even more boring than Vulkan by virtue of not having enough fucking screen time.
The more screen time for Vulkan didn't help.
No, I mean, that's not Vulkan's fault, though. But yeah, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. That's a shit argument, because that's none of their faults. But
yeah.
I think it's fun, because obviously it is a tragedy tier list. I think I get why Sanguinius is so high, because Sanguinius is death, and Angron's origins are so symptomatic of the quintessential Warhammer tragedy, right?
Ooh,
Both of them are the poster boys for tragedy in their sort of respective arenas, and I get that. I think they deserve to be where they are. I can see why you wanted Curze, Hal. I see why you wanted Curze in Truly Traumatized, but I feel like Democracy really played its role there. I think Dawn was an unexpected high one for me. I didn't expect to feel like Dawn deserved to be so high up, but in retrospect, after the heresy ended, Dawn really changed.
Yeah.
He really became, this other thing.
He's Mr. Incredible in grayscale, truly.
Yeah. Getting progressively more uncanny. I feel like Lorgar could have gone really anywhere on this list, truly. I feel like if I could honestly see us having agreed to put him like here, or agreed to put him up with Angron.
Yeah.
I could have seen either of those being the case. Because Lorgar really kind of went through, and it all depends on personal opinion, right? A lot of people, as soon as they hear abused as a child, boom, all the way to the top, and Lorgar was certainly abused as a child,
But the true tragedy in that should be always number one on this list is the GW Forge World prices. Thank you, everybody who ever bought a Forge World model.
Yeah, of course. There's going to be some people in the list who are going to be like, "Oh, why have you put Guilliman ahead of these guys?" And I'll get really irate at that a little bit, because Guilliman was kind of in Warhammer 40k, kind of the main character for 6 years. And that guy had to just see everything. I mean, none of the other people here experienced everything they knew being turned upside down. I mean, you could argue that Curze was upside down right from the get-go, but Guilliman had stability and normalcy and understanding, empathy, logistics, everything. And then he just got put into this nightmare reality of what he once knew and was like, oh yeah, by the way, you have to fix this. And the weight on Guilliman's shoulders is so much more than any other character in the entire setting. And that in and of itself plays into, that concept of tragedy and sadness. So I think Guilliman deserves to be where he is. I could totally see an argument for Guilliman being slightly higher up superhuman sad, to be fair.
I think we've done a good list. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the list.
I think he's all right where he is. Yeah.
I think it's a good list. Yeah, I think it's an absolutely wonderful
well done,
list.
boys. Well done.
Well done, boys. Yeah, so...
We could cry.
Anyone
Roboute
listening-
number 1, let's go, baby! The Roboute is number 1! Wait, it's it's a tragic list.
Anyone listening, anyone watching, if you agree with the list, let us know. If you disagree, let us know. I'd love to know where you guys want to put them. Put them in the comment section down below. And yeah, wonderful. We will see you all next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching this episode of the podcast with the incredible The Amber King, aka Hal. If you're enjoying the podcast or thinking about helping out, we'd really appreciate it if you just took a quick look at our Patreon, link down below. And if you want to interact with myself or any of the other members of the team, or have a chance for your model to get on the Models of the Week segment, come on down into our Discord, link down below. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you all next time. Bye. Right, Patron questions. So we are going to run the risk of repeating some Patron questions. Actually, I'm going to scroll right to the bottom, and I'm going to make a note next week of what Patron questions we need to ask, because I have lost track.
Oh, no.
So we are going to pick two. Yeah, we're going to pick two at random this time. So, gentlemen, the first Patron question is going to be by Oberonson, or Ober. And Ober asks, what Loyalist Primarch would you like to return to the setting? And what Loyalist Primarch do you think is more likely to return, even if it's not the one you want? So 2 answers here. Hal, would you like to go first?
Sure. I think it's a difficult one because with most likely the Emperor's children returning, there's obviously a clear setup to where there has to be a payoff of the beef between Jaghatai Khan and Fulgrim. Although, to be fair, they've not always... I mean, like, the Lion and Angron was a thing, so I don't know if they necessarily want to go in that order. I think what would be... I think maybe Jaghatai... I think there's maybe rumours like possibly Jaghatai Khan might be the one. I think the one I would most like is Leman Russ, just because it creates a level of... Or maybe, to be fair, as much as I don't like Vulkan, Vulkan's one that, like, he could return and then just not be there permanently. I think there may be too many returned Primarchs, like, in terms of, like, we need to actually progress other things in the Warhammer, like, line story rather than a Primarch.
Yeah.
Leman Russ would make the most sense because there's going to be interesting dialogue possibilities between him and the Lion. So I'll say that's my answer.
Yeah, no, of course. Alex?
I want Jaghatai Khan to return first, of course, because he's just the coolest, like one of the coolest Primarchs. But I do agree it's most likely going to be Leman Russ that is going to come back. But I would love to see Jaghatai, love that character, and I think the model would look amazing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Aaron?
I really want Corvus back, because he'll be a fucking cool-ass warp bird, half-man demon thingy bobber jigger.
Very cool.
And yeah, I don't think I need to say anything more on that, to be fair. I think that's I think that's my point across.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think for me, I'm torn for what I want to come back. Half of me wants no more Primarchs to come back. Half of me really likes the status quo at current. The idea of just the Lion and Guilliman against everything, because when it comes to the Loyalists, the Lion and Guilliman are my 2 favorites. And part of me likes that status quo. And likes the, against all odds archetype, which is what the Imperium has had for much of 40k as a setting. It's been, the against all odds, with the Primarchs being things of myth. And a lot of me misses that. But at the same time, if I had to answer the question, I had to pick one that I would want to come back. I would be torn between Corvus, because for the same reasoning as Aaron, Corvus would have this wonderful demonic, semi-demonic model, which would be awesome. And obviously, I am a hobbyist first and foremost. Or Dorn. I feel like Dorn would, if another one I'd want to come back, I feel like Dorn would shake the setting up more than people think. Because obviously the Primarchs change when they come back. They're different people. And I'd love to see Dorn coming back as Wrath incarnate. I could almost see them bringing him back as a Black Templar rather than Imperial Fist.
Yeah, that'd be so cool.
Who do I think will come back? It's going to be Leman Russ. The reason it's going to be Leman Russ is because the way they choose the Primarchs to come back is going to be based on sales. They brought Guilliman back first, because he is the poster boy. They brought the Lion back next because the Dark Angels make the next most sales, and they'll bring Leman back after that because he makes the next most sales. The Space Wolves make the next most sales. So that's why Leman will come back next. Does that make me sad? Yeah, a little bit. Do I care that much? Not really. So, gentlemen, moving on to the next patron question. Oh, let's pick one at random. Let's pick another one at random. Should we stick with the Primarch one? Because it's a full Primarch episode. I found another Primarch one.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. So, Archmagos Dominus Punk, aka Alpharius, asks, which Primarch could eat the most Popeye's biscuits without a drink?
Oh my god.
I'm gonna have to Google. I'm sorry, Alpharius. I'm not American. I don't know what the fuck that is. I'm getting my phone out now to Google that shit.
It is
Imagine
the
like the
driest
Sahara
object.
Desert, but edible.
Yeah. It's the driest object you can physically eat without, well, you might actually just choke
Your
on it without
cheeks
water.
like implode and then dry up.
Yeah, it's...
It's like a dry ass.
It's an American
scone.
biscuit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Imagine
So,
the worst 3-day-old scone you've ever had.
I'm gonna have to give that to Leman Russ, I think, because
I was thinking the same thing. I bet that man has more fucking saliva than anyone alive.
Yes,
For no good reason.
Oh, that as well.
I'm gonna throw in a curveball because I'm gonna go for Guilliman because he was able to fight in space for like multiple days on end, so he doesn't need to breathe anyway. So he could just, crunch them down for multiple days straight.
He can survive choking on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
It's fine. He can keep going.
I mean,
oh man, what do you
the
reckon?
true
Hal?
answer is Fulgrim because what that mouth doing right now?
no.
Like, I'm pretty sure he can unhinge his mouth.
And on that incredibly cursed note, we are going to bring this episode to an end. So, as per our outro, if you're enjoying the podcast, please take a look at our Patreon, come in the Discord, come talk to us, yada yada, all that good stuff. A big thank you to Hal, aka the Amber King. His channel is linked down below.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching, everyone. And does anyone else have anything we want to say, or we bouncing?
We're all gay. we just want to confirm it now. We've all been in a relationship the entire time.
And with that, we will see you all next time.
Okay,
Goodbye.
all of that.
Goodbye.
Bye.